Manana si Zeus para ham just todos in mangagi paugunin na ogan. Dan kuluna si Zeus masi para finatun mizo. Especialmente mangagi guini personat dan todo lo que es mani ekungu gezo zungi airi. Mangagi paugunin para ta conducta este junta ni público para ginagagaw ni tareha ni magpublika gi media gui huzung ni tamano ginagagaw ni open government law. Itareata pagunu na oni guasya dos na confirmasyon si Senior Michael Borja para i Chamorro Land Trust Commission, then si Pali Mike Crisostomo para u membro gi Criminal Injuries Compensation Commission. I prinoponi ni para taekungok i sentimento ni publiko paguna ogan i bill number 309, bill number 334, bill number 290 and bill number 303. Angin moto chita gi gui sempre bill explica hafa como que lenha jusia na prinoponi. Malada tatutun sa no siya no manalagdi sa tutsogu chitso ti man konduduk tazo public hearing lobe na siguro amzo na u schedule este na public hearing antes dia nalagdi zo i gobyerno. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this public hearing scheduled by Imina 32 Legislature Anguahan Committee on Appropriations, Public Debt, Legal Affairs, Retirement, Public Parks, Recreation, Historic Preservation, and Land. This public hearing is being conducted as required with the announcements as required by the open government law. I want to thank all of you for your presence this morning, especially those who are here personally to provide testimony, and also all of the members of the public who are listening out in TV as this is being broadcast. I want to just, for the record, state that this public hearing was announced and published before the governor started scolding me about not holding public hearings on bills. So we're way ahead of him on that one. I want to thank members of the legislature who are here to join me this morning. To my immediate left is Senator Tommy Morrison. Sizos Masi, and welcome, Senator. Zagifionya Galki Gaigisi, Senator Chris Dueñas. Welcome and thank you, Sizos Masi. Yeah. Utungwan, I know that when we published the agenda, we had Mike Borja first. I'm going to defer since I'm still lobbying to get up there. I'm going to defer to Polly Mike and call him first. And hopefully he can help me with that lobbying. I have signed up to testify, of course, Polly Mike. And then Miss Cecilia Morrison also has signed up to testify. You're welcome to come forward, Mrs. Morrison. As stated, Pali Mike is being nominated to serve on the Criminal Injuries Compensation Commission. Pali, if you don't mind, would like to hear from members of the public first, and then, of course, we'll hear from you, the nominee himself. So, Mrs. Morrison? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Senator Pangelinan. Good morning, everybody, to the other senators, Dueñas, Ada, Tony, and Tommy. Sizusma, for giving us the opportunity to provide this testimony today in support of Pali Michael Crisostomo's appointment to the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board, CICB, and I dated it 21st of February, May when I was writing it. I'm submitting this testimony in support of Pali Mike Crisostomo's appointment to the CICB. I have known Pali Mike for almost 18 years as my parish priest. He was my spiritual confidant, and our relationship continued expanding later into our mutual work around domestic violence, family violence, and sexual assault programs since 1996. As a survivor of family domestic violence, he was one of the most active contributors to practically all facets aimed at helping victims and improving our island's response systems. He works tirelessly to provide support and guidance for both government as well as non-government organizations, our NGOs that are really active in providing, extending assistance of services to all of the work that we do. Pali Mike is involved in a number of grant programs and related efforts sponsored by the U.S. Department of Justice, to name a few. These include the grants to encourage programs, services, training, officers, prosecutors, Stop Violence Against Women program, the Rural Domestic Violence and Child Victimization Enforcement program, and Sexual Assault Services program, etc. He also participated in the AmeriCorps program under the Corporation for National and Community Service, CNCS. As a recipient of these grants, he has received multiple orientation and trainings and has continuously shared knowledge obtained from each of our faith and community-based partners, for example, Train the Trainer programs. Polly Mike is also involved in various faith and community-based services. His efforts speak volumes of his devotion, not only to help victims of crimes, but to help in its prevention through myriad community services. His relationship to our organization and other victim services program on Guam includes the numerous capacities in support of organizations that deal with community service programs island-wide, assisting in various victim service provider organizations, cultural-specific populations such as ethnic groups, etc. It should also be noted that in addition to a host of duties, Father Polly Mike was elected to chair the United Faith Coalition that is comprised of these various faith denominations, Christians as well as non-Christian groups. He also chaired the Guam Coalition Against Sexual Assault and Family Violence Board, and he is a member of the Victim Advocates Reaching Out Board, just recently receiving an appointment to that board, and he is also the recipient of the 2014 Attorney General of Guam's Outstanding Crime Victim Advocate Award, April 2014. And 5, he also chairs the Family Justice Center Planning Committee, which is one of the several program initiatives that we introduced recently to Guam, which is a competition grant, and we're really lucky to be able to have him on our side. Father Mike's faith and community-based work are entwined with those that are concentrated in promoting individual growth and development in an assortment of areas that support crime victims, aid in crime prevention, and numerous community services that help individuals. Thank you for the opportunity to submit this testimony.
Mayor Morrison. I also like to thank and recognize Senator Tony Ada, who's also joined the committee this morning. Polly?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Senators. Thank you and for the opportunity. I'm kind of humbled and honored. I didn't know I did all of those stuff and involved myself quite a bit. This commission is very important to the victims of crime. Since my first appointment in 2008 with then Governor Camacho, the commission has never met, and it was because of a lack of quorum. And now with the recent law, having the Attorney General and his office be able to disperse funds to victims of crimes in the absence of the commission, I think it's a wonderful thing. But we still need the commission on board. And I think that this opportunity to be able to establish that, and perhaps more members will be a bit more committed to it. I know there are members out there in the community that want to be part of the commission. I'm not too sure what their reasons are for not accepting the appointments. We tried earnestly to get people involved in the commission because of the victims that are in need of this funding. But we hope that through your efforts and through our efforts here, that we'll be able to have a quorum from here on and be able to have this commission established so that we can continue to be able to help the victims of crime here on our island. So again, thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Also thanks Senator Ogden for joining us this morning. Senator Morrison, did you have any questions?
Good morning, Mom. Good morning, Polly Mike. I just wanted to thank you for everything you do for our community, and I appreciate the service that you're providing for this organization as well. And we look forward to working with you and assisting this organization to grow further. And if there's, of course, I'm sure the chairman, we could work together and work to find more commission members out there to help support this cause. Thank you, Polly.
Thank you very much, Senator Morrison. Senator Duenes?
Good morning, Mayor, Tommy's mom. And I just echo the sentiments real quickly. Polly, I've known you now many years, and As you said, the reading off of your public service is quite extensive now, and I'm sure that you're going to do an excellent job. And as you said earlier, maybe you're going to be in recruitment mode now also. Maybe this week's homily will be about public service, and you'll gain your membership from your parish. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations. I look forward to voting on your nomination, Polly. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. Senator Adder?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Mayor. Polly, we go back many, many years. You've done many, many wonderful things for the community, and stepping up again to the commission to help and serve our island in a capacity that's way extensive than what your resume really looks. Thank you. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
This must be Senator Adder. Senator Adder?
I guess I'll feel out of place if I don't make any comment, Father. So, otherwise, Father, thank you for accepting this responsibility of public service. I think that about sometime last year, I know Phil is Deputy Chief Attorney General, is very familiar with this. Sometime last year, there were a lot of questions that came raised about the remaining balance that's available in this fund, these funds, or this particular fund, to get out to the victims of some of these heinous crimes. And I certainly hope that not only with the previous appointment, but with your appointment and then identifying a few others, that you'll be able to move forward. There's a mechanism in there, and perhaps this is where the impaneling of the commission itself is critical, because there's a mechanism in there that we allow the Office of the Attorney General to be able to continue the process and allow for the release and the payment of some of these resources, some of these funds to the victims and their families. So obviously it would be ideal if in fact the commission were fully impaneled, so that you can be able to administer some of those resources, identify with a number of these victims, and then set your priorities as you move forward. So thank you, Father, for extending yourself above and beyond the general island community, and even further in this regard in terms of trying to serve and support our victims out there of crimes. Thank you. And you got my support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Polly, when we were having a conversation with the Attorney General on this issue, and we made the change to the law to allow the Attorney General to access those funds in the absence of a quorum because of lack of appointments. And it's unfortunate that we, as you mentioned, I think you're only the second appointee, is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. So we're still, of course, searching for other candidates. Maybe I'll scold the governor for not making appointments to this commission. But I suggested to the Attorney General that he at least bring in the commission members and begin discussions and so forth. Has that happened, or?
Not to this very date.
Not to this date. Maybe we'll ask the Attorney General here to see. But the intent, of course, was to, as we get members on board, the Attorney General, having purview over this, would work with them and transition them so that when they have a full commission, they're fully operational and so forth. And that was our intent there. And so we'll continue to encourage the Attorney General to bring you on board with the other nominees when making decisions on how to release funds and things like that, because I think that's very important. So thank you very much, Polly, for agreeing to serve on this. Truly the work of God, and you are such a man of God. And so we thank you for your service, and not only to this, but to other organizations in the community. I know I had a chance to sit at a panel with you not too long ago on suicide prevention, and the stories you share and the passion that you bring and the dedication truly is true public service. So we want to thank you. Mr. Attorney General, did you wish to make some comments?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Senator Pangelinan, and Senators Morrison, Senator Uggan, Senator Duenas, Senator Ada. Phil Tidinko, on behalf of Attorney General Rapadas and Office of the Attorney General, we are here to, of course, provide our support and encouragement for the confirmation of Polly Mike to the Criminal Injuries Compensation Fund. It's vitally important that we have as many commission members. In fact, we want to thank the governor for appointing Polly Mike, and I think he may be number 3. He may be the third. I have to confirm that. I've just text to find out whether he's number 3. But and to answer your question, but before I finish with, I do want to just re-emphasize again that this year Poly Mike did receive the Crime Victims' Rights Advocate Service Provider Award, annual award, this year as part of our Victims' Rights ceremony. So that's a high accolade for his dedication, commitment, and service, not only to our community, but as well as for our Lord. So he does God's work, and we're so happy that he's been appointed for the commission, and I know that he'll be confirmed. And I can tell you that we have completed the interim standard operating procedures that we will operate under. We have actually, is my understanding, have been in contact with the other appointees to let them know that we, even with or without a quorum, we still would begin the application process and the determination even with the members who are present and confirmed, even if we don't have a quorum. I think that's always been our intent, not to just simply, even though the law now allows us to do so without it, we do want them to be present because they need to eventually take over that whole process and complete that. So I think, and I'd have to get confirmation, that we may have the quorum if Poly Mike is number 3, but I'd have to double check that. So again, we're so pleased with this appointment and look forward to your confirmation of Poly Mike. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Attorney General. There being no other questions from the panel, we want to thank you for your presence this morning, the witnesses for taking the time to come and present before this committee to let us know your thoughts on the appointment, and we want to congratulate Poly Mike. Thank you, and Mrs. Masi, and we'll dismiss this panel. The next confirmation that we have is the nomination of Mr. Michael Borja to serve as the chairman of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. We have signed up to testify. We'll call the nominee last. We have Ms. Trini Torres. Were you going to testify? Dave Camacho? Dave Matanani? Alison Augustin? Okay. We'll finish with this panel, and then we'll call the next panel. We'll go ahead and have them testify in the order that they signed up, and I have Mr. Alison Augustin signed up first.
Good morning, Senators, and good morning to all you people that are here. I'm going to be a little bit funny here. You know, as the sun comes up, roosters know that it's the rule of the law that they must crow. And I also find out that there's also hens that do crow. So the bottom line to this thing here is the federal law. Under the Chapter 75 of the Land Trust, seems like some of these laws are not being followed right. And it's a federal law that it needs to be followed right. As far as the general funds that are going into the land trust, under that law, it states, and that's a federal law, that it should have its own separate account, not into the general fund. As our people paid their $50, they're waiting in line. And the biggest issue here for many, many years, and all you senators know that, and all you people that are in here knows that too, is the problem with the fundings. And I just learned recently that that funding goes into the general fund, okay?
Mr. Sangsi, if I may just clarify that point, it does not go into the general fund. The Chamorro Land Trust initially was part of the general fund, funded out of the general fund. Amendments to the law were made in which the Chamorro Land Trust now operates purely on the revenues generated by the trust assets, which are the leases of the land. So no general fund is used to support the Chamorro Land Trust at this time. But that was an amendment to the law that you may be referring to.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And also my concern on that. As you know, as the President of the United States mentions the free associations, our brothers and sisters of other islands takes that to the advantage of moving into our land trusts, because it states that they have the freedom to live where they want. It seems like they're being misinformed on that, and we do have that law that they need to follow, and expect our lawmakers to make that possible, that they need to follow that law. Because as they move into our land trusts, our people follow the law, and they wait in line. And that is a problem that we're having on this island also. As I do understand, senators, that there are all human beings and they have the rights, but also there is a law they need to follow. And I expect the land trusts and the senators and the governor to follow that law. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marcy, Mr. San Agustin. Mr. Camacho.
Buenas enough for the Mr. Chairman, Senators, Morrison, Duenas, Ada, and Agun. My name is Dave V. Camacho. I am the Acting Director of Department of Land Management and the Acting Administrator for Chamorro Land Trust. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come before you to show my support for Mr. Michael J.B. Borja as a chairman for Chamorro Land Trust board. Based on my endorsement on the experience he has, being the acting chairman of Chamorro Land Trust board for almost 2 years, Mr. Borja always showed the willingness to contribute his time, expertise, energy toward helping the beneficiary of the trust. He has faced unprecedented challenges during his first term as the acting chairman of the COTC and look forward to his reappointment again, knowing the task ahead will require him to make the tough decision for the good of all our people. Mr. Borja, I know, possesses the qualification and character that support the Chamorro Land Trust Commission vision to provide for the development of residential, agricultural, and commercial properties for leasing. I believe and I'm confident in Mr. Borja's ability and capability to serve and prove instrumental to and in any endeavor he attempts to task upon himself to bring the Chamorro Land Trust to the next level of providing good quality public service to the people of Guam. By him accepting this appointment, it is clear he is prepared and ready to take on challenges and expectations placed before him. His public recognition proves evidence of his commitment in applying discipline and integrity, which are two necessary attributes to qualifying good leadership and to which he has displayed in many instances as Chamorro Land Trust acting chairman. Mr. Chairman, I give my full support and our department give his full support and humbly ask the Legislature and Guam to confirm Mr. Michael J. Borja as chairman of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission Board. Thank you, and Jesus Marcy.
Jesus Marcy, Mr. Dave. Mr. Tanan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Ogden, Senator Morrison, and Senator Duenas, and Senator Ada. Good morning. I'm here to support of Michael J. Borja. I think he's a fair man, and in his capacity as acting, he is a fair man so far, as what we see and what he does. I also know their parents, and pretty good people there. So I'm in full support. If you don't confirm him, we will still have an acting chairman there. As you know, we have only 3, so we have to be, on the ball in order for us to have a meeting. I urge all the senators. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mitanani. Ms. Torres?
Hello. Buenas. Todo hanzu honorable senador. Organisi na in kwento so guni kahoy magahaga pilong magahaga i tautomo na native rights. Pues unggan megay no mandadanaan sa gwafini na talo no magahaga i Chamorro Nation. Pues todo manatanguan dyan hafa dyan manaajudahan. Esti tano mas importante pa ito tauta. Itano. Land is the key. Land is the key. Tatay ay position paper for independence of Guam. Tano mas preciso. Anti itano pues mantaja it. Por este siya Indians, American Indians, iligninya, iningginya, key, land is the key. If you lose jurisdiction over the land, you lose everything. Jaw hongi jo, sa magahit, dangkulo experience niya, the American Indians. Zaman men halong lokwe, ponto di tau-tau-ta. Ikuturata na tita bebendis tabay tano. Mana tulay ka dyan, hafa na mananaya talo tate. Pes talo, usay tano, malik sa panaboke familia mo, kung todi pumalo, tau-tau na sa hita manaadyo dahit, ijigi kuturata, ijigi kustumbeta. Pues isi talo, anista mujong ikanaita, pues taja it na, taja sinapon, patsa. You can do nothing. Jangin esta malingoy tano, gitanota, gitaw-tawta, pustacha tanota. Jiki liling na homeland. Ja esti itano, David yung ma-irent siya gwate gifamaguon. Ahiti jota na, di malu ta ajawa. Sa ginimanay nata talo itano. Pues Debbie nata-protege sa defendi tano, para tanai gifamagonta. Ifamaguon. Ifamilia mas preciso gikutarata ininggeta. Sanggim man matsalapo ni familia pos gua sempinay timalik kumujum. Lounggan matugini pay sapoti si Mr. Michael Borja, Senior Michael Borja. Ejo sang fafaisinaan jo how mas ketungo finot Chamorro mas, okay? Jauh tungana ti zaman yo sangan esti sabalo. Utunga lo ke non he kung kau. Lo esti mas ta lo ifihon no nai si Senior Dave Kamatsu uhongi pinyon na. Danafa mali komentus lo ke ja agradesi i boss na. Unggan sana faisin nai mangintusan sa lamig biyahe naman danaan sa todos pipiadi inis pipiadi yung grupo na inis pipia hafa na papit sa in studia timunana dyan in studia malang mamanoy sa lapi sa sempe ekungukan sangwa sinada mami na ti dinansi na pati klaro sempe na biriga siya sa unga na naaya ang tempo sa ekungukan masyakalan lalo lo kumukinin tusin esti agapao na tao to a comprende a fagwaga za hunggan may ikungok sina tao to zanayan tempo masyagwa na di tempo na lo matatsong da ikungukan edgi importante na sangin tiatetindi itaw to tano za edgi tso na pos baba sempi mujong lo hunggan na gadesi sa ikungukan da sina kalanti klaro lelebok hafano in keketsugwi lo atungo na itano para itaw-taw ta da uhongi na sempiadu dahit na sa ti ay ti Goa Titrinia, Beto Tastina, Totsonik, Tano, Zamas, Loki, Senator Ben Pangelinan, Manajuju as a Hogne, Chairman Land Committee. The Ungana Gadesi Yadudon Timu, Zan Hafane, Educate Maulik sa Mandana, Guanaman Matatangan Mangintusan, Fjord Estina Tauto, Loki, the Ungangagi Manishane Gibort, Pos no Kulan Maulik Monam. No mananaw na talo kung todo si Senyor Matanani sa stalaan manidyo nag-board sa atungo siya hafa sa malik na tao to sinong kuntusi pos pwede amon sa malik na naong na mo na lo hunggan ito daw manmanin tipo di tano sa edike mas preciso pa itaw-taw ta sa edigi sa gata estige naman malang si Dudong jangin taja manu patahanagwi pos ang taja ni na lugar patisina tafanhano da tafanaga da malik sininteta sa hunggan tungo may kay tauto ni madingo tanota man mahalang na fanhano magi gini jagwaji impo fan mate pestin fan mafut don tungo aji afa kumikilig na mampus importante para Chamorro, para itaw-tawta. Et siki, kaya gigi corazon niya, zata komprendi na preciso na maulik na taw-tawgi manhalungwi. Unggan usapot ti si Senyor Michael Borja, si Dulmasi.
Si Dulmasi, Ms. Torres. Ada question na, Presti. Pues malas at agangi talo tetenan po fan testigo. Gagi si Mr. Martin Benavente, pon testigo, señor. Si Miss Abu Rose, pon testigo. But pon... Okay. Pues, Mike, may lazim patat sa ngalo sa agot mo. Miss Abu Rose, ago funin na.
Namasi. Usapapote si Michael Borja. No, mampus megi na schedule humahala si Michael. Bula puspia, bula para utende. Lo an man matu grupo put masya untaw-tawa. Spia todo na sanyana ni para utende lo ikungo zonai tempo del Paraguay enegi mas tak kilo ipara untindi itauto za un ekungo dangin sino unas angin sino unas juda masyakta mano Michael Borja is willing to do that. Wagadesi how Michael that I recommend you please sign na maasi.
Thank you. Situs Masi, Mr. Benavente.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, good morning. I just wanted to come here and show support for Mike. What we need in Chamorro Land Trust is what Mike has. He's honest, he understands the law, he respects the law, and he knows the mission. And we work well together with the Guam Housing Corporation, and we're trying to put Chamorro Land Trust recipients residential lots into homes so they could actually have a home to live in those Chamorro Land Trust lots. And so far, that is one of our most immediate missions, and we work well together. So I support his nomination and hope that you people would also help him out.
Thank you, Sidus Masi. I go ahead and dismiss the two public members. I have two other people who have signed up. I'd like to call them Mr. Baumgartner and Mr. Sablon.
Sit on. Hello. Good morning, gentlemen, senators of the legislature, and Mr. Chairman, Mr. Pangelinan. My name is Bill Sablon, and I guess you're familiar with me already with the past hearings and what have you. I understand Mr. Borja was raised in the States, and he didn't quite catch the Chamorro language as thorough as I did. I was raised in San Diego, and every time I had to prove myself to the local people in San Diego, the Chicanos, the blacks, the Chamorros, and anybody else that was there. But the thing was, it was pretty hard for us to speak Chamorro where we were at, except at home. And I could understand Mr. Borja's situation. The thing is, be it we speak Chamorro or don't speak Chamorro, as long as he understands the rules and regulations of his position, and we can all understand one another. As you know, Chamorro language and the English language is the first and second languages on this island. I speak for Mr. Borja because every time I concur with him in anything, he comes back with an explicit answer, which is what I want to hear. As the people here, we demand answers to whatever is going on. And the thing is, Mike, I give him my trust and my understanding of his position. It's not an easy position because when you have people to face, it's a big headache. It's not like a machine where you can turn it on and turn it off. But other than that, though, he's very good. He's knowledgeable and he's educated, and he understands the languages. And if he doesn't, he'll find out. He'll find the answers for us. So the thing is, I back up and I support Mr. Michael Borja and all his endeavors in regards to the chairmanship for the Chamorro Land Trust. I just hope we find some more land, though. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sablon. Mr. Baumgartner?
Senator, my name is Robert Baumgartner. My name is Robert Baumgartner. I think you guys heard me about this unregistered land that they built, my house was built on. And I came in here just to notify you people, because the place that I'm living right now is unregistered. It was approved past administration, and it was approved again this administration. I'm not putting the blame on him, or Mr. Borja, or Mr. Camacho. Oh, I'm asking, because they're really trying to help me, Ben. Senator, he's really trying to help me out. Oh, I'm asking right now from the government, because according to SBA, that's illegal. I'm just following what the federal government said. Okay, I just want to know where I stand. I know these guys are risking their job in-house proving it. Just, comprende. It's just that this is how it is from now on. Every time they change the administration, in-house approving, because it's not registered. My house is almost paid up. What happened if that house is paid up? You guys are going to tell me to tear it down? Because it was built illegally? That's why I don't go no more to land agents. Because I'm always abiding what Chamorro Land Trust wants. They told me to give up the residential to go to aquaculture. I did that. When I did that, they found out that you cannot have two aquacultural leases. So they have to change it back. I took back my residential, which is fine. The question there, senators, I keep paying. And I'm not trying to make these guys in trouble because they're helping me too. Just because what happened to the past, And I just registered this yesterday. I had to pay $28 again to re-register my land on unregistered property. The question here is, what's going to happen to that house if it's going to pay it up? According to SBA, they want documents to show them. Then I told them, well, you guys don't have SBA office here. But they told me they got an FBI office here. Ben, I don't want FBI to get involved with this because this is not my fault. This is not their fault. They're just trying to help me. I just want to know where I stand. And I'm tired going to land agent, because what's screwing this up is every time they change the administration, another policy comes in. Toots, your house not supposed to be there. If Calvo didn't win this election and another comes in, do I have to come here again at the senator's office because Mr. Borja and Mr. Camacho screwed up? They're not the one who screwed up. It was screwed up since day one. All I'm trying to do is to, Lana, the guy's helping me too. Just like you, Ben, you're helping me too. But I want to know where I stand. If that house is illegal, I'm going to stop paying, which is I did already 2 months to posse. Because I'm waiting for them to confiscate the house, then I'll take the government to court. I'm not going to pay something that doesn't belong to me. Got you guys? I'm not blaming him. I'm supporting him to be a chairman. That's the bottom. Mali mo naman na director, so he knows what's going on, pen the bit. I'm asking you guys because you guys are the lawmakers. I can't ask these guys. These guys are limited. I'm asking you guys. I'm tired talking to how many directors? So Borja, Dunca, Rontian, what's the director?
Jesse Paris.
Paris, Lana.
Amelia.
Pago si Camacho.
Dave Camacho.
I mean, come on, man. Do I have to go through like this all the time? 54 years old. Lana, that's I want to know, because if something happens, you guys are already aware of it. Okay?
We'll fix it.
I'm asking you guys to help me because I don't know where I stand right now. I'm not going to pay nothing. I just got to talk to Martin right now. Lana, surprise you, the guys willing to help me. Just a minute. Because I was asking him, those are the people that knows about land. I don't. I'm not putting the blame on him. They're just trying to help me, Ben, just like you guys are trying to help me out. But Sekfan, what's the problem? Because right here, I just paid it, I just registered. How can you register land that's unregistered? How can you have a residential and agricultural zoning? I'm in jam.
We'll see.
So I want this guy to be in because he stop changing people. Put him in. He knows what in the hell is going on, and let it what needs to be done. Let it be done.
Okay.
That's what I got to say.
Okay.
Thank you, Lai.
Thank you, Toots. Yeah. Mr. Borja.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Senators. I am Michael Borja. I'm here seeking your confirmation for my nomination as Chairman of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of my father here today. Thank you very much, Dad, and to my mother who's watching live on TV. My wife, Julie, does send her best regards. She's en route back home right now. I've been on the Chamorro Land Trust Commission for the last 3 years as both a commission member and the acting chairman. And for as long as I know, I don't think there's been a person that's been dedicated as a chairman in that position for, at least when I was there. And so I'm coming to you seeking the position as the chairman of the Chamorro Land Trust. We've done a lot as a group in our organization with the other committee commissioners, Dave Montanani, Mrs. Amanda Santos, and I am also had great pleasure in working with all the folks in the Chamorro Land Trust Commission and now within the Department of Land Management, to include, Mr. Monty Mofness and Mr. Dave Camacho. And Dave's done a swell job in light of all this had gone on in the past couple of years with Monty's illness and passing. So he sits there as an acting director and with 3 different kinds of hats and maybe 4 different hats in that role, and it's been a tough role for him. But all the folks within the Department of Land Management and the Chamorro Land Trust work together as a group, and that's what we have seen, and it really is a good synergy of experiences. As a commission, we've always tried to make sure we maintain fairness and that we were consistent in how we dealt with each of the applicants or leaseholders that came forward to us. And as some have mentioned, we try to maintain transparency, that what we're doing is, above board and by the rules. In the consolidation with the Department of Land Management, like I said, it brought a lot of great synergy. We're also doing a number of coordination with other government agencies because they have a great role to play with us, and I'll discuss some more of those. And we do have commercial accounts that have been active within the roles of the Chamorro Land Trust that have had to be, we've had to go in and ensure that they were maintaining their lease payments, and I'll discuss a little bit more about that. But the bottom line is, you know, the primary role of the Chamorro Land Trust is to issue the residential and agricultural leases to our people, and we've continued to do that, but we're trying to do it in a much wiser way, if I can say it that way. We get a lot of different applicants that come before us, and not only applicants but leaseholders that have their issues. And you know, while we're just dealing with land, we think we're dealing with land, we're really dealing with people. And that's what's really, really very important to all of us, because they come in with their issues, and each issue can be unique in its own way, but it's people we're dealing with, and so we have to show some compassion in their plight and try to do whatever we can to resolve their problems. And that's what we've done as commissioners in the Chamorro Land Trust, is taken those kinds of issues and not said no because it was the easy way to say something, but to try and find a way to make something work for a person, regardless of what the situation is. But if we deal with one individual one particular way, then we need to be fair, and if another situation arises that's pretty similar, we got to give them the benefit that we gave to the previous individuals too. And we've done that as a group. I think it's a pretty good way to run an organization. The sign-up list is long, and it hasn't shrunk a whole lot since it was started in 1995, and that's not something that, you know, we're all very proud of. But what we're working with right now is a lot of leases that were given out in prior times, and we're trying to sort some of those issues out, because they come back to us. They come back to us with a lot of other kinds of problems that arise that weren't taken into account at the time. So, you know, we're working our best to go through that list and making sure that the applicants or their beneficiaries are still on board and still available, so we can get those residential and agricultural leases issued out to them. When the Chamorro Land Trust consolidated with land management, it, like I said, brought great synergy to both organizations, but especially to the Chamorro Land Trust. Land management has all the expertise in the land. They have, you know, the land agents, they have the surveyors, you name it. And they're the people that we always needed in the Chamorro Land Trust, but because we weren't part of that organization, it was kind of like having to go up and stand in line with everyone else trying to get things done. So now it works in a lot better way, and I think we got some great people over at land management that are helping out. And it's not like I work for land management and I work for Chamorro Land Trust. I mean, there might be some separate offices to deal with the different kinds of customers that come through, but they all work as a group. Chamorro Land Trust is also ensured that it's coordinated with all these different government agencies, because there's a lot of expertise in our government, and they have the ability to do a lot of things that we need to do. First and foremost is the Guam Economic Development Authority. They have the ability to do, and the expertise to do land management, property management, I should say. And we have commercial properties that do need to probably be managed at a much higher level, because we don't have those kinds of folks that to do those kinds of things. And I think if we had previous commercial leases that were being monitored and worked with under GITA, we probably would have a lot better management that we could go after, and have a much stronger tool to deal with a lot of these other commercial leases. But they have been working with us in coordinating any kind of new properties. They don't have anything on the books yet, but there's work in progress. The Guam Housing Corporation is another great partner that we signed up with. They have put together some housing that is super. They're as affordable as $16,000 for qualified applicants. And so when we get folks who receive residential and agricultural leases, they want to see them. They want to see what they can qualify for, so they can get a home that they can build. And these are homes that are proven to survive all the windstorms that we get here, typhoons and whatnot. So these are not wood and tin shacks that some people might want to put on these properties. These are structures that will last. These are structures that have the facilities built into them that you need, the toilet facilities, the kitchen facilities, etc. So they're a great partner in helping our leaseholders. The Department of Agriculture and the USDA, we had a great working session here in the legislature not long ago with them. And something as simple as making sure that the agricultural leases have worded a certain way so that they can qualify for the many different kinds of grants that are available for, under USDA and Department of Agriculture. So our farmers can get a head start and go move forward in getting taking advantage of some of the grants and programs that are available to help them as farmers. And they're a great partner. Just recently we signed up another partnership with the Attorney General's office. We now have a resident attorney sitting with the Chamorro Land Trust to deal with a lot of the pressing problems that we cannot and could not deal with without an attorney. And so that's going to be a great benefit to come, and you'll be seeing a lot more. For one of the big things, like Mr. Baumgartner mentioned, is land registration. There's a lot of land that was supposed to have been registered many years ago. It went stale in the dockets at the court, and so they've been dropped. And so we're resurrecting all those back again, and unfortunately, there's not much change in the land. The land is still there, so we're putting all that paperwork together, and we're going to march it right back through the court system, and this time, keep up on it so we can get these lands registered, because we can't really do anything else until they're registered with the courts. There's a lot of other things going on with other agencies, whether they're the utility agencies, Public Works, EPA, even whatever telecom company we can get, because they will help us in being able to apply for and be ready to get the SUDA grants, the substantially underserved trust area grants that are available for Guam. But we have to have certain things in place, and so that's work in progress right now, so we can move on with these SUDA, to get some of these SUDA grants. And that's to basically put the infrastructure in the lands where we need them. The water, the power, the wastewater, even telecommunication. That's kind of like a necessary infrastructure item now. And the roads. Those are all important. So if we can take advantage of some of those things, we might be able to get some funding to build the infrastructure in the lands that we are going to provide for residential and agricultural. Keeping our commercial accounts current has been a big job for us. We've had to work on several different cases where they have been negligent, and we've brought them pretty much up to date. When others pop into our minds, or come forward to us rather, that are problems, we go after that. And now with an attorney, we have the ability to do a little bit more. So we're working on a few others right now that whose accounts are extremely past due, and trying to rectify those. And if they can't be satisfied, then we have to go the full course, and that's to terminate the leases. But that's the final. That's the final thing, our final option, but we're trying to make sure everything works out. The commercial leases that we do have, I think the authors of the law for the Chamorro Land Trust Commission, while the primary intent is to issue out lands to those residential and agricultural lands to our Chamorro citizens, they also understood that there's some property out there that's really, whether it's by zoning or its location, is not really suitable for housing and for agriculture, and so they most likely are deemed commercial. But there was also a need to have this commercial property leased out so that we can have the funds that we need to do some of the things that are going to be absolutely necessary in doing this infrastructure development that we'd like to do in the lands. There's a lot of it takes a lot of money to do all these things, and so we're working to ensure that we keep all the commercial properties, the payments current, so we can have some monies to go forward and try and lay out infrastructure. It costs roughly about $25,000 per lot to lay out the full line of infrastructure. We've had leaseholders come to us and say, You know, I'm being charged $80,000 to lay a 6-inch water line to my property. I can't afford $80,000. They're charging me $25,000 to put telephone poles so I can get power to my property. I don't have $25,000. And it goes all the way down to the cost of surveying, as has been mentioned before. And we've had roundtable meetings and other meetings with residents. And one of the ideas that's come forward too is that why don't we just have all the land surveyed so that it's ready to go? And that, I think, is a great idea to move on so that we don't have the delays. We have so many people who have been issued notices to survey who have not surveyed. So they don't have a lease. They're not paying their property taxes. They might be occupying the land, but they're technically not supposed to be doing anything on there because they don't even have a lease to use it because they have not surveyed. So if we can get those kinds of things done, then it is great. And finally, residential and agricultural leases, like I said, is the primary purpose of the Chamorro Land Trust. But we try to see, as a commission, trying to do this in a very realistic and rational way. We think that the land should be ready for the person to use. We think that we're looking at almost at a two-tier approach. Maybe some lands for folks who just want a piece of property to do whatever they want. But there are some people who want to build a home. And that should be probably like in a community, a place where we can put in the roads, get all the infrastructure laid out in there so that they can go in and plop a house and you have a residential community of homes, and you can have other areas that can be suited for whatever they need. But no matter where we put folks and give them their land, there's a lot of very important rules and laws that they have to follow, and some of that is wastewater. So you can't just have a piece of property and think that you're going to dig a hole to dump your human waste, because it just doesn't work that way if you're sitting over the aquifer where lots of these lands are, and where it seems like that little footprint keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's almost covering the entire island now. And it's important that we keep our water safe from everything. And so that's one of the things too that we're, one of the reasons why we think it's important that we get this infrastructure put in place so that it's available. We're taking great advantage of some other activities that are going on with other adjacent development. For example, the property up in Jigo across from the GAIN facility. There's 2 private development housing projects going on up there, and they're laying in the primary infrastructure, the wastewater and water lines going in, but we're having them run it adjacent to our properties, so that's in exchange to get additional land for easement purposes, so they can widen the roads that go inside, and they run those kinds of lines adjacent to our property, so we can tap into it easier without having to spend additional money trying to do that. So we're trying to do things in a coordinated way across the board, and then working with all our folks here. I look forward, to another term this time as the chairman, because there's a lot of work to be done, and I feel it's an honor to serve the people of Guam in this capacity, and I look forward to doing it for several more years, and I ask for your confirmation. So I'm open for questions now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Borja. Mr. Morrison?
Real brief, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I just want to thank all those who provided testimony before you, and I'm very encouraged and the confidence that you have in Mr. Borja. And I want to thank you, Mr. Borja, for outlining a list of the progress that's been taking place. I know you mentioned clearly the right word is you're really taking just from your testimony, a structured, coordinated approach to laying out the progress to carry out the mission and objectives of the Chamorro Land Trust. So I thank you. I'm very encouraged. I'm sure the people of Guam are confident in your leadership there. I certainly am. I look forward to supporting your confirmation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morrison. Mr. Duenas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excellent report, Mike. And the 2 points I want to make that I'm hoping that you will follow through on is things that we were working on when I was there as well. I see Marvin here, and The first one was treating basically the Chamorro Land Trust properties now similar to a subdivision and using those as the guidelines and regulations. And then the second is, of course, your proposal, and when we were talking about it when I was there, a master survey, so that you go out and you can RFP that thing out, you know what I mean, and just move on it. Because what happened with a lot of these situations where you had piecemeal surveys, and that's where you had lots running into each other, and even the roads weren't straight, and you just couldn't. There's a lot of encroachments and things of that nature. So I look forward to your ambition with regard to that, and getting that done, so that would sort out all those issues. And so I really enjoyed your report, and you certainly, in my mind, have earned the reasoning to be the chairman. And so you certainly have my vote in that capacity. So, and I guess in closing, I know from seeing you every Sunday that you also serve a higher power. So that means a lot to me, because as these folks have said in the testimony, the land is the most precious thing we have on our island, and to serve our people is to preserve that tradition and to preserve that right. And so I know that in your answering to a higher power, you will execute your duties judiciously, and giving full faith and proper diligence to that job. So thank you, and you have my support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Ada.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike, thank you for the rundown of what's been happening at the Land Trust, and also what you look forward to be doing. Thank you also for wanting to renew your, reappointment onto the commission. I think it's members like you and general public, that want to come up and do what they can for the community, and ensuring that, that the policies and the rules and regulations are followed, and that you look forward to getting out these lands to the people as soon as you can, and ensure that it's done right. And we appreciate that. We appreciate the work that you've done and that you continue to do, and that you have my full support and my vote. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ada. Mike, I want to, of course, thank you for once again agreeing to serve on the Chamorro Land Trust. As you know, I believe this is the hardest job in the government of Guam. Land is such an emotional issue, but it's also such a defining issue for our people, the Chamorro people. And the establishment of the Chamorro Land Trust is something that is supposed to outlive all of us and all of those that follow us as well. And that's the whole concept. And so in order to outlast that, we've got to protect it from day one. And so that's why I have been forever vigilant in ensuring that the trust is protected, that the assets of the trust, which is nothing but the land, must be protected and must be guarded jealously and without fear. And that's why things like bills that take property out of the Chamorro Land Trust, which depletes the assets of the trust, is just not acceptable to me as chairman of the Chamorro Land Trust Commission. And I know that some of my colleagues don't like that, but it's something that I fully believe in. It's something that I think I want to die defending, and I will. And so I know that we have had many discussions, and we don't see eye to eye on some things, but we do see eye to eye on the trust, the fact that it is a trust, the fact that it should benefit the beneficiaries, which are the Chamorro people, and the fact that everything that we do with regards to the trust shall be first to support the issuance of leases for residential and agricultural. All commercial developments or anything else, must take a second seat to ensuring that we put the hands or the lands in the hands of our people. I want to thank you for the comprehensive overview of the trust and the work that you've done while you've been there, and certainly appreciate the insight. We will continue to work together in this whole issue, and I want to again express my deep appreciation to yourself for agreeing to serve, and of course to Governor Cabo for agreeing to nominate you. So there being no further testimony, I want to thank you, and Situs Masi. We'll now proceed with the bills that have been proposed. Bill number 309 is a bill that was introduced by myself and Vice Speaker B.J. Cruz. It's an act to add a new Section 7 to Chapter 1, Public Law 3206, to repeal and reenact Section 13109A5, Chapter 13, Title 2 of Guam Code Annotated, relative to prioritizing the uses of additional Section 30 revenues and to increase transparency and accountability in the reporting of Section 30 revenues to be received by the government of Guam. If you recall, Section 30 revenues are revenues referred to as cover-over revenues from the federal government from the withholding taxes of military and federal personnel that live and work on Guam. In FY 2013, or in FY, the bill would ensure that Section 30 revenues, which are covered over from the federal government for the following fiscal year, at the end of September every fiscal year, is a one-time payment. We have seen over the last couple of years where there have been additional revenues of Section 30 garnered through reconciliation and audits, in which there have been increases in Section 30 revenues to the government of Guam. In Public Law 31-77, the fiscal year 2013 Act, the administration informed the legislature there was $53,451,000 in Section 30 revenues that would be remitted to the government of Guam, where the actual receipt of Section 30 revenues subsequent to the enactment of the public law was $58 million, a difference of over $5 million that was hidden, never informed by the legislature, was not informed and not known to the legislature to be available for appropriation for things such as education, public health, and public safety. In FY 2014, there was additional revenues that were remitted to the government of Guam after the adoption of the FY 2014 revenues. This additional revenue amounted to $15,333,630. And once again, this was done after the passage of the budget, and the legislature only found out about it afterwards. And so what this bill would do is that because these revenues are adopted at the beginning of the fiscal year, that any additional Section 30 revenues received after the adoption of those revenue numbers will be deposited into what is called the Supplemental Appropriations Reserve Fund, which is commonly referred as the SAR Fund. And then this money would then be available for appropriation by the legislature for the other operational needs of the government of Guam. This is revenue over and above the adopted revenues and the budget for the government of Guam when these revenues are received. And so we have reason to believe that there may be additional revenues that may be coming to the government of Guam through the reconciliation process that may amount to as much as $20 million in this fiscal year alone, and that is revenue over and above the adopted revenues of the government of Guam. And so this bill would also then use the additional revenue, should it come in, for the following purposes. Number one would be for the full balance of the unpaid GDOE, Judiciary, University of Guam, GCC, Mayor's Council, Office of Public Accountability, Office of the Attorney General, Public Defender Service Corporation, Guam Memorial Hospital, and the executive line agency employees under the General Hay Plan. So the additional revenue would fully fund the Hay Plan, which was only funded 50% by the administration. Secondly, it would allow and set aside up to $10 million to the Guam Department of Education to expand George Washington High School to accommodate additional student population, rehabilitate and refurbish the high school at GW. Third, it would fund a new recruiting cycle of up to 20 full-time police officer 1 positions at the Guam Police Department. D, necessary Such funds are necessary to recruit within the prosecution and the division and witness victims Azuda services within the Office of the Attorney General, 2 Assistant Attorney Generals, paralegal, basically a prosecution team. Such sums as are necessary to pay the retroactive salary increments for law enforcement officers pursuant to Public Law 29105. And then the other sections of the bill would then set up accountability and transparency reporting mechanisms for any additional funds received by the government of Guam. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and call, oh, you're all up here. That's fine. I would then recognize the panel, ask the panel, since they've all decided to come up, to introduce themselves, decide who goes first, and we'll then begin receiving public testimony. I also want to do, before allowing you to proceed, thank Senator Rory Respicio, our Majority Leader, and Speaker Wampat, who's also here with us this morning. Sidus Masi, and thank you for joining us.
Mr. Chairman, Sidus Masi, Toro Samzu, buenos dias, then half a day. Batutun sa basangan na ginireparaw intensyon niya niya ititulo para i-bill kalanu godbo dinansi, okay? Lo ihumanaw niya muna that ang gintapukatya siya ilako na sinya ta reconcile sinya ta nasaw na sige supplemento and sinya tanasaw na siya to sumonik accountability and transparency. Lo right now i-intensyon ni gagi za mazahululu kalanu nina na i-otro siya na intensyon ni kalan baba para edukasyon. Okay, the intention of the title of the bill, okay, appears to be very laudable, huh? In regard to the Section 30 money, which I yield is really the purview of the governor and this legislature. However, we are really bystanders for some of the benefits that really come in, especially in light of the supplemental. Okay, so I want to reiterate that I hope that this thing can be resolved through a supplemental process, which, by the way, the Department of Education has already started, and really what you call a reconciliation process. And I really do urge, okay, as an elder of the community, really looking to propose ourselves as models, we need to demonstrate to our community, to our children, that we can actually talk about this. But of course, we have to talk about it publicly. That's part of the basis of really what we call our democracy. So that I'd like to really walk through a little bit of the testimony that I gave you, okay? The senior by Sangan, it's the motion you got to see them add the suffix and prefix. There is a one, sa malalamang kagiliata, sina tapokati, cosa che si natanala karu hafan na problema hagumalam. Tin support in the bill, okay? And it's a mas takulo na tin support for the edzil niya for lack of an order in Chamorro, is it chidot ni sina humalum. Pero complicado, okay, operation in the Department of Education. We do not support the bill, especially in light of really one of the major intention, which is really to undo some of the policy decisions that have already been done by the legislature and some of the policy decisions that we've actually already worked towards fulfilling, because we only have 180 days to educate our children. So there's a really very, very serious time constraint that we have, okay? And there is a serious kind of like, impact of really following the law and then being told that it's really going to be change. And that the bureaucracy really needs time to turn around. But I'm not proposing that as really you really can't do it. But I'm just proposing that the complication adds more cost as opposed to actually relieve the cost of really what we're doing. Okay, the legislation would appropriate excess Section 30 money, okay? That's good, okay? And part of that is really our own appreciation that the money is going to be devoted really to funding the 50% of what we call the Competitive Wage Act. Malik is a beneficial by okay? That we really laud, okay? Because Malik is okay. pero mas talo, okay? Desmi zone pero manaihem, okay, by George Washington High School. Pero accommodate the student population and at least 2,700. Again, policy ito na David Ugoha numero ni sinatawag na enrollment sagin over that enrollment, it's really going to be overcrowded, and we're just going to be adding complication to that thing. So I think we lost really the intention of that, and that almost goes all the way back to the intention way back when Senator Casper Bauer proposed this as really some of the things that should be guiding us, okay? But we had called attention to the legislature that we really do need additional schools, okay? We do need additional schools because the present schools cannot. The response that you did was really the expansion of Tizan. When we expanded Tizan, it added really some complications because it then made the school bigger than the original intention to really make it be manageable. In addition, we do know that Tizan did not have some of the infrastructure that really need to be there. And that again, we say it's because of the partnership that we have, and said it was kind of like a turnkey project. We don't necessarily get involved in that one. So we are sometimes just hidden partners or partners on the side. You know, we just whisper really and say, please be on the lookout on this one. So that we thank you for addressing that. So that we say it's laudable in this bill. But I think the more serious dimension is really that I really call to your attention is really when you say that if GW is really renovated, then you know everything else goes back. When you make everything go back, and then some of the money that's associated with that includes really the moving of the central office. We can't go back to a dilapidated building. We can't go back to a building that actually doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the legislature. So if you can renovate it quicker than quick, then I think we really appreciate that. But we cannot go back. We cannot go back with that very serious aspect of really of the bill. Okay. In addition, what we have done is we have already we have bought collateral equipment. Okay. We have really started the move from Acadnia to Tizan. Again, as a talent, as a matsogas, a guy Head Start. Head Start is already in Tizan. Okay, and if we're saying that some of these people would have to be moved back, and unless you consider that Head Start is not really part of your central office, then that they may have to move back. Again, you're going to separate us because we're trying to centralize as much as we can. Okay, with those two basic notation, I say we object and we do not support the bill as it presently is written. It really has to do some major revamping in order for us to make it be acceptable, and we'll be willing, and we would be more than willing really to assist in maybe addressing from the objections that we raise, and really maybe addressing for kind of like the other final very important dimension is where are we going to find money, and we need to build the high schools because we don't. With the addition of the military buildup, it's really going to further complicate the situation that we're in. So it is, those are not hidden complications, but either the complications that we've discovered in opening up really the language of the bill. So this Marcian, thank you for the assistance that you have provided and shown and demonstrated to us. But I remind you to please, let's work just a little bit more closely so that we can, and we offer really that this be again done in a bit more substance of reconciliation, substance of the supplemental which we do have, and really the substance of accountability and really transparency. That we're really being transparent and accountable to you too. But we are partners altogether in this one. So this is Marcy, okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Honorable Speaker Wampet and Mr. Chairman, and other members of the 32nd Guam Legislature, buenos dias. My name is Kenneth P. Charglev. I'm a parent of a Guam Public School and a member of the Guam Education Board. First, I thank you for your vote of confidence in supporting my nomination to the Guam Education Board. Thank you. In addition to the written and oral testimony provided by our board chair, I wish to provide a brief testimony to request this august body to reconsider the passage of Bill 309. In several pieces of legislation, this legislative branch enacted, repealed, amended, and reenacted laws clearly defining the governance of the Guam Department of Education vested in an education board to be known as the Guam Education Board. In reviewing the proposed bill, and if it becomes law, the legislation mandates to transfer both students and GDOE employees out of Tijan campus upon completing the expansion of the George Washington High School. You entrusted us to execute our formal responsibility as board members, and we therefore petition this body to honor existing statutes in the governance and management of the Guam Department of Education. Although not the intent to upset the authority of the board, this legislation further minimizes the statutory and formal role of the Guam Education Board to make recommendations to the legislature and to Imagalahinguahan for changes, additions, or deletions to the Guam education laws. The GEB is clothed statutorily to set the direction and priorities for the department, and therefore it is our position and priority to keep the students and employees at the Tijan campus at this juncture or any future developments unless it warrants an adjustment of attendance areas. Because our mission is to educate 31,000 public school students in safe, secure, and supportive learning environment, the Guam Education Board desires to influence the wisdom of our good lawmakers to consider instead investing funds for the construction of additional schools in the central and northern districts, and allow the Department of Education to move forward with its plans to welcome over 1,400 students at Tijan as we greet them in August this coming school year and subsequent years thereafter. We also pray before this body to honor and view our DOE employees to be so deserving to work in a healthful, safe work environment in the Tijan facility. As we all know, I ushered over 2,600 JFK students in school year 2009 into the Tijan campus with exuberance and excitement like a ball of fire. In my 2 years there, the Islander faculty, families, and more importantly, our young Islanders have shared with me their positive experiences and forever grateful for the support of this body. Although the government was financially limited, our students' wonderful experiences at Tijan were largely due to the unfettered commitment and support of the legislature ng Guahan to provide essential services for the JFK students and to its community by leveraging and utilizing the government's ability to issue tax credits to the lesser. This action of the legislature ng Guahan is honorable, laudable, and commendable. We thank you. So we oppose the prohibition of using tax credits to fund new construction at Tijan. In closing, and on behalf of the Guam Public School students, we come to you this morning, honorable senators, to reconsider and reject the passage of Bill 309. Thank you, and nondangkulo na si Jus Masi.
Si Jus Masi, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, Honorable Speaker Wampat and Chairman Pangelinan and Senators. My name is Ronald D'Souza. I am a parent and also a Guam Education Board member. As you know, that the Chairman said that we are not supporting Bill 309 Bill 309. Senators, as you know, that we are in support of not moving any staff out of Tijan, and because that building right now, it's some of their offices are leaking. As an experienced former employee on the Department of Land Management, I used to work in that building, and I'll tell you right now, in my experience, that building is old, and they have rats in that ceiling. And I'll tell you, we have experience of staff getting sick in there. And restroom has also rats in that restroom. And I believe that we have to protect our employees to make sure they function right and they won't get sick. Because if we don't protect our employees, the Department of Education, to do their job, we're going to have a lot of people getting sick in that building. So for moving them out of Tijan, that's another solution for them to move out so we can function the Department of Education. And not only if we opened the new school, we had public hearing for our new students to move into Tijan to eliminate the overcrowding at George Washington High School. As you know that this bill is to expand 2,700 students to have additional classroom. But if you put these staff out of Tizan again, that's a lot of work, senators. Because we're moving forward right now is to make sure that our school is prepared on 2014-2015 for our new high school Tizan. If we do this again and we move them out, that's a lot of cost again. So Senator, reconsider this bill because the department really worked hard to inform the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gutierrez.
Buenos dias. I made all the younger ones go first. Dr. Cruz said elders on this table. I'm the oldest. I'm older than all of you there. Buenos dias, John Hoffaday. Good morning. Speaker Wampat, Chairman Pangelinan, and all of you senators up there. My name is Maria Atalik Gutierrez. I am a parent, a grandparent, and a great-grandparent. I hold 3 titles. Number 4 title is I am the Vice Chair of the Guam Education Board. My testimony here is coming out from my heart. I tried writing it last night because I want to tell you how I felt about this proposed Bill 309-32. I've been involved in the education, not as a board member, but as a parent advocate since 1991 to now. People would ask, why do you have to continue being stressed? I said, no, it is a commitment that I made, that as long as I'm as healthy as my 93-year-old mother, I will continue. And I know she's watching me. She told me to watch my blood pressure. But in the Atalik clan, we do not have that problem. What I have to say may hurt some of you, may make you feel like you ate the hot pepper, but it's coming from my heart. And I am that person that I'll tell you like it is. Thank you, Sidus Marcy, for giving us the opportunity to be here this morning on this Bill 309. You have heard my 3 colleagues that we do not support. We do not support this bill. It is unfortunate that the legislative bill 309 as introduced have decided to use the Department of Education students and a public educational system as katnada in the political arena, in the conflict of the administration. Please put favor para man mausa i-eskwelante ni publiko i Departamento de Edukasyon gihafa ti manadan sin mizo sa ni administrasyon. Hafa na todi desde tempo ni sumano sa edukasyon kada guahat ti manadan sin mizo man introduce yo hanzo legislatura sa matulaika. Inaiham na eno na pudet iparahami ben at na policy na board ben matsotso mo na sa ni superintendent put para famagoon tagi publiko sa mega na manay na ti manasinya man eskwela famagonia eskwela ni man mapapasi hutsagi na zaputi lamunga man mausa ifamagoon pakatnoda may lad sa tafan matsotso pareo anestam zuman matatsong gana hulo taza gana Democrat taza gana Republican taza gana Independent titilwa pensegwi corona penisa ifamaguon eskwelante gi Departamento ng Edukasyon sinya mas usas sige sti utoge gi paingi usas sanga sti uzong gi zoko granddaughter and tingwa haji na padgun ya grandma what are you doing? Why are you talking to yourself? I'm preparing my testimony for tomorrow. Never mind, grandma. I am going, after college, I'm going to major in political science. I'm coming back to Guam, and I'm going to be one of those senators. And I am going. I'm not going to do what they're trying to do to the public school kids. All I'm asking you, senators, give us that flexibility. Give John Fernandez, the superintendent, that flexibility for us to work. Let's work together. There is so much time already that the Department of Education, hard-working employees, have put into this in getting us to Tijan. Regardless of who owns Tijan, regardless of who is in the administration, let's stop that. I met two of the administrators yesterday that are working on this transition, and they looked at me yesterday and said, Mrs. Gutierrez, is it worth it? I said, why? All this work that we're going to do, and look at that Bill 309. I think one of them said, I think I'm going to resign. I'm going to go into the private schools. This is frustrating. Senators, please, you mandate a law that the board's role is not to micromanage. So please do not micromanage the Department of Education. Let the board and the superintendent and all their employees work on this. 2,700 students at GW. I know some of you senators have had very big concern about overcrowding. I know that. I've been in the system too long. And you're going to put 2,700 students there. Try going there in the morning and tell me honestly, honest to God, on the top of the Bible, can you walk fast? No, you're going to bump into each other. I challenge you to try going there. I challenge you. We have board meetings. We have parents that come before the board, teachers, students, and you know what? They put us in a spot. What are you guys going to do to address the overcrowding? We're the one getting hit, senators, not you. Sometimes, you know, I bite my tongue and said, you know, they're right. But can you help us build a new school? Help us build a new school. Because we need to address this. All the public school system, the schools are in need also of repair. Some of these schools are older than any of you. I'll tell you that. But they were doing our best. So all I'm asking you, por favor, maila zatafan ng corazon, maila zatafan pandanya, zatafan matsotso para famaguun, para Departamento de Educación, poli zota politika yung banda. Kumikinto sa amin dyan, uno na pimo, ipaingi, gininisiya na may, the senador, hafag ano, prima bidan, hafag, kazam gini naman, entaganaw, entalo, mami, pwede dipat eskwela. Por favor, usafay sa namzo. Sa aiza barabi, tay todes ti tinigay, ni si Stefan Manoy, clinic sa sempi Manong ni Samzo. So, by sangan, afat pinitiu. And nawa, pasta, por favor, maila, na iham, so taham, hami zan, superintendent, pen fan matsoot supresti. Sa tafandanya, ezunat, tin support testin na banda. Sesta to di hasta jangin todo bida tegini bida mo gumama sa matunu sa lenya na sueno no putyo sempi ni start ba. Por favor, masyado sa famagun mizo eskwela ni publiko. Lai bumotahan zo todo do. Ibumotahan zo todo do. En nawa gagagam zo maila za tafan aguti kanay tatafan sige mo na. Sa mga esti na iham an nesti na sa hami bensegwi. Just aniling mizo na hami na 1, 2, 3, 4 mga micromanage operation na ay si John Fernandez pues parewa loke ingagagawam no. Thank you si Jesus Masi sa mga man matsuli esti sinangano tani na pamputi san usasangan igagigil korasono monada esti esta manasuday ganaw pechikam do todo tafanagot ikane si Jesus Masi.
Mrs. Morrison. Mr. Fernandez.
Off a day and good morning, Mr. Chairman, Speaker Wampad, members of the committee, senators. There's absolutely no way to follow Mrs. Gutierrez in her testimony, but I do want to recognize Dr. Cruz, Mr. Chargalov, Ms. Gutierrez, Mr. Azuzu, as members of the board coming here to testify on the board's position on Bill 309, and I am here to join the board in expressing opposition to Bill 309. And what you see before you is very much a board-generated discussion and position on the bill. Even though there wasn't an opportunity to formally take a vote, I would say that the members have had an opportunity to review and discuss the language and have come here in their capacity to testify as to their positions. And I think this goes to show you that what we're talking about here with regard to our facilities and with regard to TZEN and with regard to the direction we want to go with the department, that a lot of these very same issues that you are raising here have already been struggled with and dealt with and discussed at the board level, out in our village communities as we've gone through looking at the attendance areas, with the superintendent, with our employees, as we looked at our budget resources, as we looked at our facility needs. And so we are very aware of some of the issues that have come before you that you are looking at. But I would say with full confidence that this board and the superintendent have been working with these issues and have determined a path forward and have actually been working very hard to accomplish our vision and accomplish those tasks ahead together as a team. And I really appreciate the fact that we're all able to be here to echo the same sentiments. I won't go then through my detailed testimony except to hit some of the high points, but I do have copies for the committee for you to read later and to enter into the record. As a board, as Dr. Cruz testified, we are not here as experts in managing the government's overall fiscal condition or projecting revenues, and we know that that is an issue that is here before you, and we leave that to the legislature and to the executive branch to determine how best to appropriate those resources in support of the government and in support of our public schools. I do want to go through 5 quick points. The first is with regard to full implementation of the Competitive Wage Act. As you know, and as you've tried to address, that our non-instructional employees are getting 50% of the Competitive Wage Act, and we support full funding for them. The administration has been is charged with implementing the Competitive Wage Act, and we've been working with them through these first months to address those issues. And we would like, of course, to hear the administration's plan to fund any implementation that happens prior to the fiscal year. But obviously, through fiscal year 15, we would expect through that budget process, we would address those longer-term questions of how the CWA will be funded. But just so that our employees know, we do support having that 50% that remains in the balance funded ultimately, so that they can achieve the benefits of the implementation of the new wage scale. Number 2 is that I do want us to echo the sentiment that you expressed, Senator Pangelinan, that we do support George Washington High School. In fact, we support all our schools in terms of the needs of their facilities. And I do want to just acknowledge that in the last Appropriations Act, you did put in funding to help GW with their track. And that work is started, and after Relay for Life will start in full force so that we do have a track and field ready to go for the coming school year. And our George Washington community is going to appreciate that very much. But because of the vast needs that we have across our facilities, we've really been relying on the legislation that Speaker Wampat has passed. And those are Public Laws 32-120 and 32-121. And that identifies revenue streams to be used to address the needs of Simon Sanchez High School first, given the fact that we were very close to closure of that facility this school year, to help us to develop a master facilities plan that will enable us to prioritize the needs of our schools based on our demographic trends, based on our resources, based on our available land, so that we can look at the school system holistically and be able to address those needs. And then to be able to use that facilities plan to address all schools. Now, in a letter sent to Governor Calvo last week expressing those facilities priorities and urging for the completion of the RFP to go out and facilitate the implementation of those 2 public laws, we did provide a listing of schools that we believe need to be addressed in priority, but subject, of course, to the recommendations coming out of the Master Facilities Plan. And we know George Washington High School is at the top of that list. And I have a copy of that letter for you if you would like to see that. We know that our secondary schools are, in fact, have the greatest needs because of the foot traffic, the age, and wear and tear. And so when we do execute this and we do execute the RFP and have the developers come in and a plan developed, we expect that the secondary schools will get a lot of the attention because of the fact that they express the greatest needs. If you talk to our parents, that reflects the same sentiments. We see a lot of participation and enrollment in our elementary schools. But once they get to middle school, there are a lot of questions that parents have about whether they can send their kids to schools of a certain population, certain facility conditions, and that's where we don't want to lose our kids. We want to keep them going throughout our school system until they graduate. With the resources dedicated to GW, it has in fact been the discussion of this board that we do not want to maintain a population of 2,700, much less higher. And so our efforts, even with the resources to modernize the school, are to support a smaller, more manageable operation that allows us to not have to deal with these operational challenges and focus more on the instructional outcomes and a learning environment that we know that our kids deserve. So I believe that even if we did have the resources for GW, it would be to address the facilities, but not anywhere near that level. Right now, with the proposed attendance areas, we are looking at high schools that, for the most part, are going to be around the 2,000 student level, and that's at maximum capacity, and that's what we're intending. And then a couple of schools that are lower than that. But that's really the target in terms of enrollment. I know that for those who have worked in the school system, I know Mr. Chargalov mentioned at JFK we currently have 2,700 students, and he can tell you how challenging it is to focus on instruction in the classroom when you do have to deal with these facility challenges. With regard to the Tizen policy and activity, this potential reversal of these decisions really complicate what we're trying to get done here, because we are working very hard. In fact, we had an all-hands-on-deck meeting yesterday, and I told my team, I said, we know that it's very hard work that we're all doing here with regard to the central office, with regard to Untalan being back in its renovated campus, and with regard to opening a new high school. And I told them in September, when you look back, we're going to say that we did an amazing thing here. To be able to manage those three very highly complex projects in such a narrow time frame, that will pat yourselves on the back and will recognize that hard work and that effort. And we're going to show everyone that we can accomplish these things if we put our mind to it. And what I need for them to do is to keep going, to recognize the hard work, the flexibility needed, and the challenge that we're going to have over these several weeks in order to get things done. And it's a hard task just to keep everybody on task and rolling and moving forward, because, like Mr. Gutierrez said, there is obviously, we're spreading our resources thin trying to get everything accomplished. I do want to say with regard to Tizen, we do appreciate the support of the Barragata community, Mayor Blas, and who said to us at our village meeting, finally, we're going to have a high school of our own and a middle school of our own that we can be proud of and support. And so we've asked her and the other mayors who are going to be impacted to help us through the summer to get these things done. So I want you to know that at the ground level, there was a lot going into the scheduling, the moving, the physical and intellectual labor. We're working not only as a department, but working with, because we are tenants, we are working with the government of Guam, through the governor's office, and with Cortec to try to manage and get everything done. And so you've got a trilateral, basically committee working through these complications. But at any rate, we are committed to getting the work done. I think the issue that Ms. Gutierrez raised, that knowing that there is a possibility that these things are permanent or could change, it makes it harder to kind of keep focused and keep moving in the same direction. But I'm holding our team to that task and to those goals. There is a proposal in the bill that would prevent new construction on that campus, or at least being able to leverage tax credits. So, as I said before, we're tenants. We didn't negotiate the lease. We didn't negotiate the funding. We just have been abiding by what the executive's been doing, what the legislature's authorized to be able to be done on that campus. But at the same time, knowing that there was consideration of a new gym sports facility on the campus of Tizen High School, a consideration of a warehouse space, and more office space of the campus. I will say this, that our priority is to make sure that the students of Tizen High School have that complex, and if anything, we would prioritize those needs and ask that at the very least be supported, that we have a new gym because we know that those are the first calls we're going to get from those parents and from the students about when that gym will be available. And so I know that we're all on the same page, and we know that will happen with the high school. With regard to the central offices, our employees are happy to be up there just because we know our conditions of our current building. And so as hard as it is, we're going to have to be very flexible. We may have to find additional storage space to address our storage needs. We're going to have to get used to a different office environment up there. But overall, the conditions of the buildings are much better than what we have. Right now, we have flooding that happens when it rains. We have vines that have crawled into the outside and are growing into the buildings. We do have occasional. You hear the footsteps on the in the drop ceiling from rats. Air conditioners are going down. But that's not that we can't fix them, but because we know we're moving, we're trying not to invest too many resources into the building to kind of do the Band-Aids and fix it up, because we are hoping that we won't have to deal with those issues very soon, and we want to focus on moving. So at the very least, if we can do the gym, the office and warehouse we can wait on, but that that'll allow us, the office space would allow us to consider further consolidation. So for instance, special education occupies significant space at Chief Brody Memorial School, and if we are able to take those functions up to TGen, that would be an opportunity for us to discuss the educational environment and needs using that school campus instead of using it as an office. But that was one of the considerations, and the status quo is that they will remain there. And then the additional issue was with the warehouses. If we have the warehouses, we were planning to move from our PD warehouse and at least the receiving warehouse, which has been an issue for us with regard to our federal oversight. We do have a visit from the U.S. Department of Education this summer, and we were hoping to be able to say that the direction we were going was to put those functions up at TGen in a much more secure warehouse versus investing resources to repair slowly dilapidating and aging warehouse in PD. So those are the considerations. Obviously, status quo would have us remain in PD. I think the next point, which Ms. Gutierrez and Mr. Chargalev mentioned, Dr. Cruz and Mr. Azuzu, that the board and the superintendent are really working well together, trying to address all these issues as a team. Now, we have our disagreements here and there, and in fact, as we were going through these discussions on attendance areas and the high school and what we were going to do, we had a lot of heated decisions. In fact, we were, as an administrative team, were pushed to go do much more work to make sure that the board had all the information they needed to make the decisions about the high school and attendance areas. So I would say that we would ask for that support for what we've come to today in terms of the direction, policy-wise and operationally as a department. And then finally, I do want to raise this issue, and I want to take this opportunity. I know you have been corresponding with me, and I've corresponded with you and with the governor, that we do have immediate needs, and those needs reflect the needs in our operating budget. And so even though may not be immediately germane, because we're looking at resources in the department, I'm very concerned about this gap that remains with regard to the TEF funding, both in FY13 and FY14, which essentially leaves the department $7 to $8 million in the hole, because the budget was built on revenues that were not realized and are not expected to be realized until FY15, and these are revenues coming out of the revaluated properties that we expect would increase our tax base and tax revenue. So I would just throw that in there because there are needs that we do have. We did want to let you know of that issue, and I know you are aware of it. We did let the governor know the same way we let you know through asking for that consideration. We met with the governor to add that to make sure it was on the fiscal radar. And so we have not yet resolved it, but we just wanted to say that these are pressing needs that we do see, that we would like to see addressed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Masi, for your testimony. First of all, I want to just clarify for the record that this bill does not address the administrative offices whatsoever. Okay. This bill only addresses the TGen High School. Secondly, I understand the board and your plans, but understand that what the direction you're moving in with regards to TGen is going to cost this government $256 million. That's what it's going to take to continue to support TGen to exist according to your plans. And we don't have $256 million. Now, if you go back and give me some suggestions on how we're going to fund TGen at $256 million, then maybe we'll consider letting you guys stay up there, or letting the government of Guam stay up there. Because as you said, you're a tenant. But you're a tenant, you have your needs, you develop your plans, and then it's up to this legislature to fund it. And the governor is requesting that this legislature fund your plans for Tizen, his plans for Tizen, in terms of buying that property to the tune of $256 million. And we just don't have that money. So that's why we had thought that if we get additional Section 30 revenue, we can do. You mentioned that JFK has 2,700 students? Is anybody complaining about overcrowding?
Yes.
They are?
They will be addressed. So the Tizen High School addresses both JFK, GW, and then Okadu's expansion addresses JFK.
Yeah. But so what our intention here is that you can have Tizen as a temporary, but we can't afford to buy it. You can have Tizen and run a 1 or 2 year program there in terms of making some issues and making some changes in the other schools. But why would you want to buy it? I don't think the students at JFK would have been as charged up. They were happy to move in there because they knew that the new one was being built. But if you tell them this is your school and this is yours forever, I don't know that they're going to be as happy, moving into that temporary facility. So in that respect, I certainly appreciate the input of all the members of the board and of course the superintendent, and we'll continue to work and go through these issues. But it is that challenge that I understand all the desires, but the bottom line is if we proceed with the plans that you have and the administration has with regards to Tizen, we're going to have to come up with an additional $256 million, and we just don't have it. So that's what we're kind of looking at from this side of the table and so forth. But certainly I appreciate the insight and the testimony this morning. Speaker Wampet, did you have any additional comments? No. Senator Respicio? Senator?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman. I really appreciate the input that you've all provided, and I think that it goes without saying that there is a need for another high school. I don't think that that's being refuted right now. But if we look at for comparative purposes, the construction of JFK High School on government-owned property, I believe is costing the government of Guam in the neighborhood of $222 million over the term of the arrangement. That, in comparison to the $256 million of procuring and purchasing that facility. If the price was perhaps much less, then looking at the facility, ensuring that the integrity is there, that it will last for the foreseeable next 20, 30 years because of the structure. Obviously, it's pre-World War II or World War II structure, so they're fairly strong and sturdy. But those are factors that we need to consider. I think that there was a comment that was shared in regards to the legislature trying to use our kids. The way I look at this is here's a proposal. It's an idea that would address, perhaps there are some components that need to be revisited, but would address providing additional resources to the Department of Education. And I look at it from that perspective and knowing full well that all of you understand this legislative process. Things change over time as it's addressed with the committee, as it's addressed on the floor, so that hopefully at the end of the day, you will get additional resources. I mean, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. Fernandez, you highlighted that you were shy $7.5 million in fiscal year 13 and approximately $8 million in fiscal year 14. So, I mean, even looking at this legislation and saying, okay, realistically, if these resources are available, could these resources be redirected so that, in fact, it would take care of your operational requirements for this fiscal year? I mean, I'm looking at this as something that perhaps you don't agree with every single provision, and some of you have highlighted that, and I appreciate that. It's just that I look at it as also, should the resources and the funds be available, it's another opportunity for us to be able to direct some of these resources to the Department of Education. So I appreciate your comments, and Mr. Chairman, I certainly hope that we can take into consideration some of the concerns that have been expressed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Absolutely. Thank you. Senator Morrison? Okay. Gentlemen, ladies, thank you, and Sidus Masi, for your testimony this morning. All right. I also have Mr. Lester Carlson, who wishes to testify?
Good morning, Chairman Pangelinan and members of the Committee on Appropriations, Public Debt, Legal Affairs, Retirement, Parks, Recreation, Historic Preservation, and Land. I'm here today to provide both written and oral testimony on behalf of the Governor of Guam relative to Bill 309. And thank you for the opportunity to provide this testimony. The Governor opposes this bill. It is an abomination. And if somehow 8 senators are able to shackle their conscience, face the people, and lie to them with empty promises and mandate unsafe conditions for GW students, Governor Calvo surely will veto this bill.
Okay, can I just interrupt you and call Mr. Berdassi also? I'm sorry, he testified. Or he signed up to testify. So thank you.
First and foremost, senators, we are besides ourselves with shock that any of you would even consider making it legal for the Department of Education to operate an unsafe and overcrowded high school. Bill number 309 requires that the minimum enrollment for George Washington High School be 2,700 students. Everybody knows that 2,700 students on any one campus already is dangerous, and I believe there was some concurrence with that from the members of the Board of Education previously. Will you truly mandate and force DOE to operate every school day with the heightened risk of gang violence, accidents, and lack of adequate supervision? Your support for this bill threatens to the thousands of parents in Joltnia, Chalampago, Ganya Heights, Hagåtña, Sinahanya, Mangmungtotomaiti, Barragata, and Manilo that you believe they should be forced to send their children to an unsafe school. That this is even being considered as a bill before the legislature is shameful. This bill would be vetoed on these grounds alone. If that weren't enough, the legislature has proposed trashing DOE's autonomy by micromanaging it. It would be one thing for a governor to try and wrestle for the reins of an executive agency. However, the legislature's attempt to usurp the powers of the superintendent and the Board of Education truly takes the cake. Governor Calvo's leadership style has been engaging and collaborative with DOE. He has laid out a vision for education, shared that vision with the superintendent and the board, opened his door to collaboration with them and the teachers union, and allowed for them to do their jobs the best way they know how. The results have been promising. One thing is certain regarding the ability to direct and manage DOE. The current management team, guided by the Board of Education, is making more progress than DOE would have made under the control of the legislature. Indeed, how can this body guide the curriculum, learning standards, measurement, and accountability structures of an agency of 32,000 clients when it cannot even pass one resolution in support of the military buildup? More importantly, how could we trust the expenditure of over $200 million in public funds to the very body pledging unrealized phantom funds to empty promises in this very piece of legislation we are discussing now? Bill 309 makes worthy appropriations. There's no doubt about that. The problem is that the appropriations are based on money that isn't in any account, that no one knows will ever come in, and that could very well never materialize. In the financial world, we call that deficit spending. In our homes, we call that irresponsible. And we all know the practice to be called an empty promise. It is wildly reckless and attempts to play with the emotions of those affected for what can only be assumed to be election year politics. On top of the recklessness of anyone who votes for this bill, supporters will fail to consider how the general fund will sustain the additions in personnel mandated by this bill beyond one fiscal year. A sudden and unanticipated increase in Section 30 may, if it ever materializes, be made by reconciliation and for reimbursement and not an annual remittance. If your concern, Senator, is to ensure any additional Section 30 funds are first appropriated by the legislature, Governor Cabell turns your attention toward inward to discuss what seems to be a disagreement the authors of Bill 309 may have, well, with themselves. Bill 309 seeks to appropriate unanticipated Section 30 money for education and safety issues. How ironic. It was September 13th last year, just 8 short months ago, when I called the legislature into special session for this very purpose. Except they were for bills to appropriate unanticipated Section 30 money that actually was coming in. The first bill, Bill 184-32, was authored by Senator Aline Yamashita and sought to appropriate $3 million to fund the facilities master plan needed to make $100 million in renovations to public schools. Sound familiar? It should. Speaker Wampat decided to overshadow that mandate with copycat legislation that mandates the same thing. The only difference is that it's 8 months later. Construction could have started on Simon Sanchez High School even before the Leave Your Mark class ever raised a red flag had the legislature passed Senator Yamashita's bill 8 months ago. The second bill, Bill 185, was introduced by Senator Mike Limtiaco. He wanted to appropriate over $400,000 to purchase police vehicles. The legislature also failed to pass that appropriation. The third bill was by Senator Tommy Morrison. He saw the tremendous work GPD, Guam Fire Department, and the Department of Corrections were doing, and he knew that they needed more funding to operate, especially for overtime. So he proposed Bill 186, which would appropriate an additional $3 million to cover these operational expenses. Though it turned out Senator Morrison was right about the need for overtime funding, the legislature never passed this bill. The final bill was from Senator Cruz Duenas. He wanted to appropriate an additional $9 million for tax refunds. Keeping with its history of reluctance to pay tax refunds, the legislature also refused to even entertain that bill. Instead, senators ignored the special session. It was based on one thing: Vice Speaker Cruz's comment that the governor did not need the legislature's appropriation to spend additional Section 30 funding. Vice Speaker Cruz, who is the co-author of Bill 309, said, "Cut the politics, just cut the checks." He said legislative appropriation was unnecessary. Governor Cabell cut the checks the very next day, based upon the legislature's own reading of the Organic Act. No one, not even the author of Bill 309, Senator Pangelinan, objected to the expenditure of additional Section 30 money. Much like the legislative position on Retidian, this position on Section 30 money seems to have flip-flopped to something very different from the legislature's original position. So, knowing this, we must ask, have the authors made up their minds as to how additional Section 30 monies are to be used? And will this be their position tomorrow and the day after? This irony and lack of transparency and sincerity from the legislature is what makes Bill 309's legislative intent and findings all the more absurd and disturbing. Governor Cabell cannot allow this section to go unnoticed. Far too often, the Legislative Budget Committee has made unfounded charges against the governor's fiscal team. On the record, because of these various sections of legislative intent and findings written by the budget chairman, are innuendo, lies, and revisions of history about the governor's fiscal team. The author writes in this bill that financial transparency is needed because the governor's fiscal team withheld notification of additional Section 30 monies from the legislature. This is a lie. The legislature received notification of the funds from the U.S. Treasury at the same time the governor received his electronic notice. If the author is upset that Republican senators beat him to introducing measures, first, we must ask him to drop such pettiness. And second, we would advise that if he can't get past such a petty consideration, that he at least work faster to get his bills into the clerk's office before his colleagues do. To the integrity and credibility of the fiscal team, however, Governor Calvo expresses the following. I openly challenge the authors of this bill. What have you done? You have created the very deficits my fiscal team has eliminated. You have created the excess reporting requirements our employees of the fiscal or financial agencies work to the middle of the night without compensation to produce for you. You have created empty promise after empty promise to employees, vendors, and taxpayers owed refunds. Those are empty promises my fiscal team has been fulfilling for those employees, vendors, and taxpayers at a rate not seen in over 2 decades. While you refuse to open up the financials of the legislature, my fiscal team has won national recognition for financial transparency and accountability, not to mention the drastic improvements found in the independent audits and the performance for fiscal year 2012. The slander against them in bill after bill from the legislature is intolerable. Our team works very hard. Theirs is a professional commitment to excellence in service to the people that, even if mimicked by senators, could not produce the same levels of results. On the totality of the bill, Governor Calvo has this to say. I realize that much of what you do is positioned to impart a political objective against me. But I wonder whether you ever consider the true consequence of your actions to the innocent who become collateral damage on your way to attacking the administration. It's like the serpent who waved the fruit constantly in the garden. The journey we've taken to fix this government and set us on the right course is our effort to build Eden. It is clear to me that some senators will stop at nothing to destroy her for the blind want of position and power. This bill isn't the problem. It's just the latest in a series of attempts to destroy what we've gained with just one wrong decision. I will veto this measure and any other like it, which threatens the progress we've made to reverse the decay of failed fiscal and social policies that have come from the authors of this bill. Every aspect of this bill is wrong. It must not receive any support and should be killed immediately. Thank you for your time today, Senators. We hope you each make the right decision.
Thank you.
This is again on behalf of Governor Calvo.
Thank you very much. Please express our deep appreciation for his testimony. Mr. Budasi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I begin, the Chief Justice Torres and the Acting Administrator of the Court, Joshua Tenorio, extend their apologies for not being able to be here today. They're both attending a Juvenile Justice Summit in the mainland. I'm also joined here today by my colleagues, Human Resource Administrator Ms. Barbara Jean T. Perez, Attorney Sofia Santos Diaz, Chief Marshal of the Courts Ed Tovas, and Chief Probation Officer John Lazama. So on behalf of the Acting Administrator, I'll just read his written testimony regarding Bill 309. I first want to express my appreciation to the legislature for its unanimous passage of Public Law 32-147, which appropriates $944,000 to the Judiciary of Guam to fund implementation of the COPS Act for marshals and probation officers that were implemented fully in December of 2013. This amount will ensure that we have enough money to fully implement that for the rest of the fiscal year, and it's very much appreciated. The Judiciary of Guam fully supports Bill 309-32 COR, which identifies and appropriates additional Section 30 revenue above those adopted in Public Law 3268. Should Guam realize a third straight year of windfall Section 30 revenue, it would represent a tangible and real funding source available to fully fund the remaining 50% owed to the Government of Guam employees in fiscal year 14 from the Competitive Wage Act. Public Law 3268 provided an appropriation to the Judiciary of $470,000, which represents about 48% of what's needed to fully fund the Competitive Wage Act in 2014. Now, Section 2 of Bill 309 adds a new Section 7 to Chapter 1 of Public Law 3268. The Judiciary presents for the legislature's consideration that Section 7A as proposed can be further strengthened by extrapolating each branch and agency into its own subsection with a specific appropriation amount based on the detailed information provided to the committee by each branch and agency. Furthermore, with regard to Section 7A as proposed, the legislature may wish to consider establishing an order of priority to determine which branches and agencies receive funding first, as to avoid any interpretation of the provision that could lead to any inequitable distribution of the available funding. The order of priority could be based on the sequencing of the subsections, for example, Section 7A1, 7A2. Finally, to ensure swift administration of the proposed Section 7A, legislature may consider requiring the disbursement of cash to the branches and agencies within 7 days of the receipt of any additional Section 30 revenues. The remaining priorities outlined in proposed Section 7 are all very important and reflect much needed improvements and enhancements to our community. Judiciary again supports the payment of the prior year obligations to the marshals and probation employees as provided for in Section 7E, resulting from the COPS Act. The prior year obligation to cover the third and fourth 10% increments for the marshal and probation officers for all of 2013 and for the first 5 pay periods of this fiscal year 2014 is $1,300,729. The ideas presented for consideration above for the proposed Section 7A should also be considered for Section 7E. And thank you again for the opportunity to testify on Bill 30932 on behalf of the judiciary employees. We look forward to support in order to fully implement the mandated salary increases.
Thank you very much, Mr. Badasi. Any questions? If not, thank you very much, and Mr. Badasi, for your testimony this morning. We've had a request, and I hope that we can accommodate this request, to have yes? There's no additional testimony on 309, is that correct? Yeah.
Well, I just want to thank you very much. You know, in all the years I've been in the legislature, I've never really seen or heard testimony such as what was delivered by the
Governor
Lester Carlson. And if anything else, I think this is slanderous. I mean, just to use all the words, the campaign begins, the election year politics, yes, cut the politics. Stick to the issue. And most recently, even when we went through the public hearings for the SEIS, is that stick to the issue. And apparently, that's not the case here. And I'm definitely really very, it's disheartening to hear such a testimony.
I agree, Madam Speaker. I just didn't want to dignify it at all. I've had a request to hear Bill 303 first, and if the two authors of the bill don't mind, we'll go ahead and call on those that have signed up for Bill 303. Bill 303 is a bill that would appropriate $1 million from the fund balance of the Guam Board of Accountancy to the University of Guam Endowment Foundation, Inc. for the creation and implementation of the Herminia Durking John Phillips Visiting Professor and Lecturer Program. And we have signed up I have signed up Annette Santos, Martha Suez Salas, Mr. Dave Sanford, Mr. Mark Mendiola. Well,
he just went out temporarily.
Okay, we'll just go ahead then and begin with the panel here. Very briefly, the bill would allow the funding of a visiting professor program named after the late Herminia Durking and Mr. John Phillips for accountancy program, and the funding would come from the fund balance of the Guam Board of Accountancy. It'll be managed by the subcommittee of the endowment fund and the Board of Regents. So that's the intention of the bill. So we'll go ahead and then receive testimony.
Hello, my name is Dave Sanford. I'm the Executive Director of the Guam Board of Accountancy. Let me preface my remarks with the fact that now that we've gotten the easy stuff out of the way, I'm just going to read my testimony as in support of the bill. Apologies from our board chair. He's attending, John Onodera, he's attending a funeral this morning, so he could not be here. Dear Senator Pangelinan, Chair of the Committee, Speaker Wanpat, fellow senators, the Guam Board of Accountancy fully supports Bill 30332, appropriating $1 million from the Guam Board of Accountancy Fund to the University of Guam Endowment Foundation, Inc., for the creation and implementation of the Herminia Derkin and John Phillips Visiting Professor and Lecturer Program. This appropriation will culminate in an agency-advised endowment fund agreement, which I think most of us have seen and may have comments on, between the Guam Board of Accountancy and the Foundation, enabling the Guam Board of Accountancy to partner with the University of Guam to supplement UOG's accounting program. The Board of Accountancy is firmly committed to aiding and growing the UOG accounting program to better prepare local Guam certified public accountants, candidates, to excel in passing the CPA exam, as well moving to a 150-hour education requirement for licensing, which is required throughout the United States by the other 54 jurisdictions regulating CPAs to maintain Guam's substantial equivalency, meaning that our CPAs would be on the same footing as any other CPA nationwide and can go and practice in any other jurisdiction equally. Challenges the UOG to provide more options for students, and GBA believes that the creation of this program, driven by Guam's public, governmental, and private accounting profession leaders, is a valuable first step towards doing so. In addition, we believe the creation of this program will encourage local business contributions to the endowment to aid our community efforts in developing a resident cadre of Guam CPAs to fulfill Guam's need for future financial leadership. Thank you for this opportunity. Essentially, the board is fully behind this. We've got the funds available, and we're definitely ready and willing to work with the University of Guam to implement this program at their ultimate authority. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanford. Dr. Santos.
Buenas and half a day. I am Annette Tyron Santos. I'm the interim dean for the School of Business and Public Administration at the University of Guam. Thank you for allowing me to offer my written testimony as well as oral testimony in support of Bill 303-32 with modification. I think the modification that I'm requesting has been addressed with my discussions with our partners with GBOA and also with other members of the University of Guam Endowment Foundation. And the area that I wanted to modify would be to include an accounting faculty and the dean in the advisement committee to select the visiting lecturer and professor. And so, in general, the faculty and I are very appreciative of this intent of Bill 303-32. The bill is timely as we experience growth in our accounting majors and the need for faculty to meet this growing demand. Bill 303-32 also allows us to enhance our accounting programs and to diversify our accounting faculty portfolio. The anticipated dynamics are exciting, and we look forward to the faculty research opportunities that we can anticipate from this bill. It is our hope that the bill will also allow us to attract leaders from the accounting field to augment our program offerings and move towards the trends in the accounting program research area. I think it's a wonderful tribute to name this program after Herminia Durking and John Phillips. These individuals represent the genuine interest that faculty should have in our students, the demonstrated commitment to providing our students with the skill sets that are necessary and the knowledge that they will need to succeed in the professional environment. And so this bill is a great tribute to the legacy and also helps to sustain our accounting program at the University of Guam. So thank you very much for for this bill, and Situs Masi.
Situs Masi, Dr. Santos. Okay.
Good morning, Senators, Madam Speaker, Mr. Chairman. I'm one of 3 full-time accounting faculty at the University of Guam. My name is Martha Suez-Salas, and I'm here to support Bill 303-32. The University of Guam, as a land-grant university, is committed to serve and to provide quality higher education in the Pacific region. Likewise, the accounting program must abide by these high standards to serve our diverse student population and the business community that relies on the human capital that we produce. Ultimately, the curriculum should satisfy employers' and students' expectations while complying with the framework outlined by the American Institute of CPAs and the University of Guam Institution and Program Learning Objectives, while fulfilling the requirements of our accrediting bodies. Thus, a visiting professor will provide the specialization that we need in areas of need, such as forensic accounting, auditing, and management accounting, which will serve to enhance our program and our students' understanding of these complex subjects. Our students are enthusiastic, bright, and capable, but they need the knowledge to be able to compete with off-island graduates. The Herminia Durkin Scholarship and the John Phillips Program will offer an invaluable opportunity to our students and to the accounting program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martha. Sen.
Half a day, Mr. Chairman, Madam Speaker, and Honorable Senators. My name is Zeni Asuncion Nays, and I'm with the University of Guam. I'm here to provide testimony in support of Bill 303-32. I'm currently serving as an adjunct faculty in the School of Business with the accounting discipline. I teach the auditing class and between 7 o'clock at nighttime to 8:30 at nighttime. And I also provide, I facilitate the CPA examination review course on Saturdays. I am also the controller of the University of Guam full-time. The reason why I joined the faculty pool is that I saw the necessity to strengthen the pool of instructors, specifically in the field of accounting, and that the university currently has a limited resource of instructors who are CPAs. There are only 2 CPAs in the School of Business. One is my colleague here, Professor Martha Suez-Salas, and myself, who's just an adjunct faculty. My auditing class in the spring 2014, out of the 23, I graduated 18 who are accounting majors and will soon be part of the workforce looking for a job. And if you look at the 5-year history of the number of students we confer degrees, there's an average of about 145 graduates each semester, and education is about 80. Not I'm putting education secondly, but it is part of our fact book. I strongly support Bill 303-32 as this affords the students a greater variety or selection of style of education or instruction, and not to mention the experience of these visiting professors when they come to the university, especially in this day of age of cybercrime, fraud, identity theft, consumer fraud, etc. I think we need to prepare the students of the discipline of what's out there. Sure, we have our own taste of fraud in here, but what is still out there, I'm sure there's more to learn from the stateside compared to what we have here on the island. So, as Mr. Dave Samford has said, pretty soon the accounting board will require 150 credit hours to sit down for the CPA examination, and the university needs to be prepared to impart that instruction to our students. So, Honorable Senators, Mr. Chairman, Madam Speaker, I hope you also feel strongly in supporting this Bill 303-32. Si Diyos Masi, thank you, and Viva UOG.
Si Diyos Masi. I'm going to ask the panel to be dismissed here. Mark, and then I'm going to call up Steve as well, because he also tested. Thank you very much. Were there any questions for the panel? Senator Respicio?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker. I just want to recall how
this Board of Accountancy Fund has matured along the way. I think it was 12 years ago when this fund was not made separate and a part of the government of Guam, when it didn't have its own checking account, and when Mr. Sanford was still the executive director. Mr. Chairman, you recall he had to front a lot of the money because while you had a positive fund balance, the cash balance was not the same. And so this was also the time when Senator Tony Sanford was in the legislature. And so having seen how this fund evolved over the years to where you actually have $1 million cash in your fund is something that should be part of the public record, and it should be something that we should continue to express our appreciation, and shows that things do work when you separate things from the general fund, right? And you spent a lot of your money, and then we had to hope that you'd be reimbursed, right, Dave? I think that you're being.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is actually the second million that UOG is getting.
Because at one time it was about 140,000 that you'd had to front load, so it's pretty significant.
I was out of pocket for about 9 months worth of expenditures.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes. Speaker one.
Yes, thank you very much. So based on page 1, where it says that it will be administered under the direction of the Standing Committee of the Accountancy Board, UOG, and other accounting professionals, Dr. Solis, you were suggesting then that in this board you wanted to add a faculty member. I didn't catch everything that you...
Madam Speaker, yes, I requested consideration to modify to include an accounting faculty as well as the Dean of the School of Business and Public Administration to be part of that committee.
Okay, because although it says UOG, but specifically it's not just anyone in UOG, but rather these two different professionals.
Yeah, I believe the relevance is important.
Okay, thank you. And I'd just like to, of course, show my support for this, because you're right, we're so far away, and sometimes we're limited only with the individuals that we have here, and as much as we like to expose our students and send them off island, I think what's even, I guess, cheaper in the long run is to bring in these professionals. I applaud you for, your work as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Okay, thank you. Mr. Mendiola and then Mr. Durkin, please. Mr. Mendiola signed up first, I think.
All right, half a day, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mark Mendiola. I'm the Executive Director for the University of Guam Endowment Foundation. I appreciate the opportunity, Senator Morrison, Senator Atta, and Senator Respicio, and Speaker Wampad, for the opportunity to give oral testimony in support of this bill. We've actually been working with the Government Accountancy Board on this mechanism that would help the University of Guam Endowment Foundation meet its mission. And so if I may, I'd just like to read our mission into the record so that folks understand that the sole purpose of the UOG Endowment Foundation is to support the University of Guam. And so the mission of the UOG Endowment Foundation is to foster and promote the growth, progress, and general welfare of the University of Guam, to solicit, receive, administer, and disperse gifts, grants, and bequests of property of every kind, and to hold this property in trust in such a manner that the foundation deems appropriate for the benefit of the University of Guam. Acting as a catalyst for dynamic growth, the University of Guam Endowment Foundation perpetuates the philosophy of synergistic relationships, resulting in a strong and unique institutional image throughout the Pacific Rim. So we firmly believe that this legislation that's before you folks would really help the University of Guam, and we want to be that catalyst to support the types of activities that occur at the university. So this fund would be a permanently restricted fund specifically for this program and this project. It cannot be used for any other purposes without the express written consent between the Accountancy Board and the University of Guam Endowment Foundation. So in essence, our Board of Directors will act as the fiduciary responsible agents to ensure that the fund continues to grow and that the mechanisms in place so that the appropriations will be used for its intended purpose. So on behalf of the University of Guam Endowment Foundation, our Board of Directors fully support this bill, and we ask that you give special consideration to this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mendiola. Mr. Durkin.
Hafaday and good morning, Chairman Pangelinan, Senators, Madam Speaker, and members of the committee. My name is Stephen Durking. I'm the son of the late Herminia Dueñas Durking, former University of Guam professor and former senator of the Guam legislature. My father, John Durking, is also a UOG professor, but he's currently off island, but sends his sincere gratitude to the bill's author, Senator Pangelinan, and members of the Guam legislature for allowing us the opportunity to testify in support of Bill 303-32. Our family is both honored and proud for recognizing my mother, Herminia, and her colleague, John Phillips, in honor of this program. Both were longtime professors of the university, and both have provided many contributions in advancing government accountability in Guam and throughout the Pacific region. My mother and John worked closely together throughout their careers as colleagues and as great friends. It was their dedication and contributions to the accounting profession for so many years, so it's appropriate that they're recognized together. My mother always instilled in us that a strong educational foundation is paramount to achieving great success, and she certainly demonstrated this through her many accomplishments she achieved. Bill 303 provides great opportunities of mentorship, guidance, and leadership for our UOG accounting students, and this program will further enhance their learning experience. Thank you, and Sidus Masi.
Thank you, and Sidus Masi, Mr. Durkin. Speaker Wampat.
Thank you very much. I just want to ask, and I was only able to find it in the agreement, your MOU, there's attached here that you've indicated that there will be a cost or expenses, I guess administrative costs, in which the endowment will be able then to get a maximum of 2% of the fund for 3 years average balance. Can you explain number 11 of your cost of the fund?
Yeah, well, the University of Guam Endowment Foundation is a nonprofit organization, and so we're a separate entity from the government of Guam, and some of our operational costs is through administrative fees that we tack on to the return of investments. And so traditionally, most universities and university endowment foundations tack on an administrative cost. Our cost has been at actually 2.5%, but through our consultation with the Government Accountancy Board and our Board of Directors, we were able to make that exception, and basically it's an all-in fee that we would basically managing. That's what the purpose of the administrative cost is, maintaining the fee at through that fund, making sure that it's audited, things of that nature. So maybe perhaps Mr. Sanford and I could elaborate a little bit more on that. But most of the folks that make contributions to the Endowment Foundation, there is a stipulated donor agreement that there's a 2.5 administrative cost fee that we charge. Other nonprofit organizations usually charge probably between 5 to 7%, but the Endowment Foundation, because we want the funds to, as much as possible, go to its intended purpose.
Basically, the way we see that, Madam Speaker, as Mark says, all of the endowment funds charge a management fee, and it's really all over the board if you look at all the universities across the United States. We were happy with the flat 2% fee, which includes not only the endowment fund's management administrative fee, but part of the investment management fees. The basic premise of the investment management is that we should be able to earn enough in investment earnings to actually cover this entire fee and still add to the corpus of the endowment on a continuing basis. And the endowment fund then benefits from the administrative part of the fee so that they can cover their cost of managing, and also additional costs they would have in terms of fundraising for trying to generate additional contributions. And that's also one of the things that we see as a benefit of establishing this as a separate endowment fund, which would allow all of the local businesses to make their contributions also. And we're hoping that we can draw in a basic annual amount from most of these too. So we were happy with the 2%, being as that they gave us the break from the 2.5%.
Well, and I'm happy to hear that as well, that you're able to get it at 2%.
Well, we kind of pushed them a little bit.
So, but then the one thing that is good then is that part of the fee then will actually be used to even conduct an audit of the fund to ensure then that it is truly restricted to be used for specific purposes. So it won't be at their cost. It will be as part of this administrative costs.
Yes, and the way the agreement is set up is this is basically a stipulated donor agreement, and whatever is in the agreement will be maintained in perpetuity. And so unless the boards agree that there's going to be a change or anything like that, but then the enabling legislation that allows us to do that, of course, will come back into consideration. We understand that this is public money, it's in public trust, but the fiduciary duty will lie with the endowment board of directors and in consultation with the folks from the government accountancy board to ensure that the funds are used appropriately.
It's not an attorney. It's not? Yeah. One last one, because I know the Senator and I were just having this sidebar conversation that, in future generations, when they come back and they look at this legislation and then they see a name, Herminia Deerking, they're going to, people always ask, what is it? And I'm wondering whether there's any objection to, one is to say, of course, is that former Senator Herminia Deerking, and the fact that they're CPAs and why then I think it is important. So it's not just being named after somebody, but truly because of what they stood for, what they've taught, for many years, what they practiced. And I leave that up to the chairman to consider, but that's just a suggestion that we would like to make.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Madam
you.
Speaker, for that. Dr. Underwood, I thank you very much for joining us. I know you've been here earlier.
Well,
and thank you for coming back.
No, well, thank you very much, Senator Pangelinan, and all the senators that are here. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Of course, I've written testimony. I'm very much in favor of this, and I'm sure that everyone has outlined all the reasons for it, and I'm also grateful to the Guam Board of Accountancy and for their initiative on this. This is an excellent use of funds because, as Mark has outlined, it's in perpetuity, and that's exactly what an endowment is supposed to be like. That's what it means to have an endowed chair, and so when we were able to demonstrate the viability of this effort, we'll be able to demonstrate that to other potential donors who may be interested, instead of thinking like one-time deals. So, like they'll think, wow, we'll give you some money and then you can hire so-and-so, or, you can hire a visiting professor in a one-time deal. This is an excellent and very common, of course, in more well-endowed universities. So we're very, very happy for that, because this will be the first time that we really have an endowed chair. And so we're very grateful to the Guam Board of Accountancy, grateful for you, Senator, and for the other senators for anticipated support for this. Also very grateful that we're honoring Herminia Deerking, former faculty members Herminia Deerking and John Phillips through this vehicle as well. I do have just one minor suggestion, which I don't know whether it's been raised already, but it's on Section 2, where it just says that when the Guam Board of Accountancy develops the rules and regs, that we put in with the collaboration and participation of the accounting faculty of the University of Guam. If you read the legislation, and it's implied that there's levels of collaboration there, but if you don't specify that there's actual collaboration, then what happens is that people who are looking at it from the outside say, oh, so are you ceding the authority of hiring over to an outside agency? And that's the only concern. And of course we're not. And of course, we'll follow the guidance of the Guam Board of Accountancy. But we very much appreciate the idea, very much supportive. And I think that this will be another example of how to do this. And hopefully this will offer an opportunity to people with significant funds to have this opportunity to endow chairs in a lot of different disciplines as well. So very happy this is a great groundbreaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Masi, Dr. Underwood. Speaker Wampat, any additional questions?
One more on I know it's not part of your testimony or the bill, but because you've attached it in the testimony, Mr. Sanford, that on number 8 where it says that it's not a separate trust, and although it's it's restricted and it's going to be commingled with the rest of the fund, but can you just explain then why that designation of it not being a separate trust? I mean, I understand that you have this one big endowment fund, then you would have individual like accounts, or you're the accountant. Please explain to me.
Correct. Well, Mr. Mendiola could probably address it also from the endowment perspective, but essentially that's just the language that specifies the fact that the funds can be commingled from an investment perspective, so that when investing, then you get typically the higher the amount you invest, the lower the fees are going to be to manage those investments, and you can get into some investments. So essentially that's only commingling from the standpoint of investment. The fact that it's actually a restricted agency advised endowment agreement, which specifies specifically what can be done with the money, means that from a restricted standpoint, the endowment fund itself can only use the funds for what's specified in the agreement. And the commingling is strictly from an investment perspective.
So if by chance that in your investment, for example, the returns are as great and naturally drops, then will the account specifically for this purpose still maintain at least what it originally put in, or would you suffer as well?
We would suffer as well, and then of
can't
course
control
we
the
would,
economy.
and then of course we would make them suffer as well.
I can speak a little bit to that. A great question, Madam Speaker. And usually what happens when that occurs, basically we don't disperse any of the funds until the fund becomes healthy and whole again. We try and stay with, maintain the principal amount, and whatever the rate of return in the market may be is what we disperse. And of course, the internal mechanism at the university, a request will come via the department to the president, and the president to the Endowment Foundation Board to disperse these funds. And at that time, when we review the fund, we can determine the total amount of money that's available for them to utilize. But the principal amount is what we maintain as part of the corpus, so to speak, so that will continue to grow. And then as every year comes along, and if there's no lecturers that year, then of course that fund will continue to grow. And so, and this is through the advice and the guidance of our financial advisors, our money managers. So there'll be a tremendous amount of set of eyes looking at this fund to ensure that it stays healthy. And our portfolio basically is in line with a lot of the other academic institutions that we balance it out so that whenever there's a hit, it's not a detrimental hit, but it's pretty balanced.
I'm sorry, one more. Since we're appropriating then the monies to go into the endowment fund, then the $1 million, how are we going to ensure then that a check will be written to the endowment fund, of course, that the $1 million in fact is $1 million cash to be remitted to the University of Guam Endowment Foundation?
I guess we'll have to trust the chairman of the Board of Accountancy to sign the check and pass it along. But yes, we do have the funds. They are available, and as soon as the bill is passed and signed from an appropriation perspective, it's legal, then we'll write the check and they'll establish it. And I'm sure we'll have a public event so that it'll be obvious to everybody that that's what actually has happened. I might also add, though, that from the Board of Accountancy's perspective, we would also hope that we could add to this on a continuing basis, on an annual basis, for whatever excess funds we generate, at least to the extent that we might cover the annual expenses and continue to grow the endowment. And that'll happen as long as we continue to have the CPA candidates come and sit in the Guam Test Center to take the CPA exam.
Thank you, Senator Respicio. Senator Morrison. Senator. If not, thank you very much, Senator Masi, for your presence and your testimony this morning.
Senator Masi, thank you.
The next bill on the agenda is Bill number 334, a bill introduced by Senator Rory Respicio, and I'd like to give the author a chance to give us a short synopsis of the bill. We have Ms. Maria Pangelinan from the Election Commission here to testify.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for hearing this bill 334-32. The Guam Election Commission did an assessment of its existing 4 tabulators and determined that it would be prohibitively expensive to repair those machines, and instead they proceeded to move forward on the purchase of 3 ballot tabulators, including software and professional services at a cost of $134,250. The GC has also identified an additional $48,500 to purchase ballot stock and coding services. Mr. Chairman, the integrity and the efficiency of our electoral process is necessary to provide for free and fair elections in our democracy. This appropriation, if passed and signed into law, and the funding will certainly ensure an orderly, accurate, and expeditious ballot tabulation process for our island's elections. I look forward to your committee's discussion and the presentation made by the Guam Election Commission Executive Director Maria Pangelinan this morning, and that so there's no surprise, Mr. Chairman, she also has to bring up an existing issue with respect to their prior obligations and the existing debt that they have to try to reconcile. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and Mrs. Mossy. Ms. Pangelinan, you may proceed.
Hafadays, Senor Chairmans and members of the Minatben 32 na Legislature in Guam. Si Zeus Mossy for the privilege to appear before you. The Guam Election Commission respectfully requests your positive consideration of Bill Number 334, a $184,500 appropriation authorizing the purchase of the ballot tabulators, ballot programming, and ballot stock. The GEC issued an invitation for bid and received 3 responses, with election systems and software coming in the lowest at that amount. The Guam Election Commission further requests consideration of an additional appropriation for GEC prior year obligations in the amount of $375,208. This amount was submitted as part of the GEC fiscal year 2015 budget request, but the Commission in a public meeting on May 15, 2014 agreed to request for the additional appropriation to be added to Bill Number 334. The GEC received a letter from the University of Guam demanding payment of $23,800 for the use of the UOG field house for 2012 elections. And the University of Guam is also requiring that GEC pay in advance for the 2014 elections. Other prior year obligations include payment to Department of Public Works, Guam Police Department, and the University of Guam Computer Center, commission stipends, outstanding Mariana's Variety invoices from 2008, and invoices for legal services dating back to 2005. That completes the list of our prior year obligations and vendors. Pwede ha sinya huopi todo ifinaisin mizu pago si duos marasi para isupotin mizu no Commission Election Guahan.
Thank you, and Mrs. Mossy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Maria, for your testimony. I'd just like for the committee frame of reference to generate just a short discussion on those Ivotronic machines and the status of those machines. We had to go in a previous legislature and disallow for its use because of its accuracy and the concerns involving that 2006 election. There was no auditable paper trail, and there was some concerns with respect to a cloud over past election processes, and the most prudent thing to do was just to prohibit the uses of those machines.
Okay. The Ivotronic machines that were purchased back before the 2006 election has been surveyed by the Guam Election Commission, which means we sent it down to GSA. We tried to get it so that we could get it a credit with the vendor, but because of the lack of use, or they had no need for the machines, the reimbursement or the credit for that amount could not be given. So at the point when they let us know that we couldn't get credit or return the machines, we sent them down to GSA, and that was on or about sometime after the passage of Public Law 3161 too. So in line with that, we went and did inventory, complete inventory. That was about the time I came in. So we did complete equipment inventory, and we processed the survey forms down to GSA.
And you did explore several options and methods of counting these ballots. Like in some cases, in some jurisdictions, they have the verified voter paper ballot where you would vote using the machine, and then the ballot will be printed out, then it is scanned into another machine that would count the ballots, the votes at the precinct level, right?
That's correct. We did look at precinct counters as well, and these would be at the precincts themselves, and we would order one for every precinct. Some challenges or some issues that came up were, one, what happens if the power goes out? And if the power goes out, the easy fix would be to put a ballot box right next to stop the use of the precinct counters and use just the regular ballot box. But the other issue that came up was the precinct counters come up with the precinct counters tend to jam. And in our humidity, in our environment with lots of humidity, we anticipate having a lot of jams. And when the machine jams, the ballot boxes have to be open. And if we go around the island, if one of us, if the commissioners or myself, have to go around the island to open the ballot boxes ourselves, that may cause delays. We're not too keen about having precinct officials open ballot boxes in the middle of the election.
And finally, just so give the chairman some comfort, what was the first estimate you had with these tabulators? And then you were told, it was suggested by Speaker Pangelinan that you proceed with the IFB, yes. Get your due diligence, and what was your first number versus the 134,000?
And sir, So
there's a savings, right?
Yes, sir. And we were, I have to say that the commissioners were very diligent. We explored all the possibilities. They grilled me on what's out there. They grilled me on the costs and making sure that we met all our mandates and, of course, UOCAVA mandates. So our initial request to the legislature was $450,000, and we let you know at that time that we were going to explore the possibility of lease with option to buy, and hence this came up with us, and now the amount that we're going to use is for outright purchase.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Morrison? Okay. Speaker? If not, then thank you very much for your presentation this morning, and the savings, absolutely the savings. We now turn to my apologies to all the members of Parks and Rec, but to the final bill on the agenda, Bill number 290, introduced by Senator Tommy Morrison, which is an act to amend Section 77114 and 116 relative to dedicating the Recreational Services Fund of the Department of Parks and Recreation exclusively for recreational activities, and to authorize the department to solicit and accept donations. And we have Senator Morrison. I'd like to ask him to give us a short synopsis of the bill, and then, of course, receive testimony from the department.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Youth and community programs are very important, and we must understand the value and high return on investment they bring to our community. They keep our children off the street, away from peer pressure and juvenile delinquency, reducing the overall cost of public safety. They encourage residents to keep active in our venues for healthy lifestyles, which in turn reduce rising healthcare costs. Bill 290 does a few things that are significant to the revival and growth of our youth and community recreation programs. It allows the department to take donations. Currently, the department cannot take donations. In order to keep things going and efficient in DPR division, especially at the recreation division, it requires public-private partnerships. Allowing the community and sports federations to donate to a government league or facility or to a facility encourages public-private partnerships and civic responsibility. This is a good thing. The bill also establishes a protected fund exclusive to recreation programs that can be assessed immediately. This fund supports recreation programs solely and allows for the payment of referees, instructors via stipend, contract, creation of more youth programs, adult programs, and doesn't grow the government. It also allows the Department of Parks and Recreation Division to spend money as they generate it, which is key. For example, if the department wants to create a swim league or league or softball league or a program, it will take the registration fees. They can turn around the fee the next day and use it for money for purchase of more chalk, more equipment, more supplies, to pay coaches, referees, and also buy trophies, awards, etc. They don't have to wait for the appropriation the following year, which has been grossly inefficient and has killed the recreation program over the years. Bill 290 has taken feedback of multiple directors from over the past decades and provides a real solution to strongly growing recreation programs for our youth and our community. Primarily, I worked closely with Dennis Romano, and I recall him being one of the last generation of the youth and recreation youth programs at the village levels throughout 19 villages. I know Mr. Nettis here is one of those folks I recall, but this funding source at one point generated up to $1 million annually that supported this youth recreation facilities, youth programs throughout our island. And I thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I look forward to testimony today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masi. I also have Mr. Brad Hewitt who signed up to testify. Please join us at the table here. And Melva Limo. Oh, you're not, okay, you're just supporting the bill, just for the record then. All right, Mr. Blas.
Good morning. Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, sir.
Senator Ben Pangelinan, Madam Speaker, Wampat, Senator Rory Respicio, Senator Tony Ada, and Mr. Sponsor, Senator Tommy Morrison. Happy day. The Department of Parks and Recreation is in full support of Bill number 290-32. However, we recommend the following amendments. Number 1, subsection 771141, to maintain the work parks alongside sports recreational as part of the maintenance, upgrade, and upkeep. This will allow for more flexibility in both areas that DPR oversees. 2, subsection 7714A, we request that the authorization for the expenditure of the funds consistent with this section be amended from the Commission to under the discretion of the Director. This will allow us to address issues immediately, such as light replacements, parts for equipment, and unforeseen emergencies that require immediate attention. As you may know, the Commission only meets once a month, and as recently as this past March and April, were unable to meet due to lack of quorum. 3, subsection 77116 of the proposed bill will provide a vehicle for DPR to directly solicit and accept donations for the development and operation of the community recreational programs. The proposed legislation provides for a direct turnaround programs available to the public. We request that this subsection be amended to include memorandum of agreements as an additional vehicle for solicitation to further strengthen and encourage public-private partnerships as an alternative to funding and operating community-based recreational programs and maintaining and enhancing park facilities. We look forward to any additional assistance this body can provide the Department of Parks and Recreation so that we will be able to continue to provide safe and clean parks for our community as well as visitors, and to continue to provide recreational programs that keep our youth active and healthy in a safe environment. Thank you for your continued support of DPR and for the opportunity to come in. I also want to thank some of my board commission were here, and some of them I think still here, and also my staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and my apologies to them for just how long it took us to get here. I know some of them had to leave, but we certainly appreciated their presence. Please let them know. Mr. Hewitt?
Senator Pangelinan, Senator Morrison, thank you. I know that we've talked about this previously, and we do have some issues with this. My name is Brad Hewitt. I'm a kinesiologist, strength and conditioning coach, and baseball trainer. I represent Guam Amateur Baseball and also the NCD Consortium Physical Activities Committee. I'm not here representing the NCD committee per se, but I do represent them somewhat, and I will comment on that in just a few minutes. I want to start out by saying that we kind of have the same goal in mind, but we have a little bit different way to get there. This Bill 290, kind of goes back to kind of like in the 80s and 90s, how things used to be when we were kids, how when we grew up, and even earlier, how we had sports and athletics. Times have changed. Kids now have, society has changed. We have TV and internet and things like that. So many things have changed now. Just the roads and goals have changed so much. And if you build things, it's not going to happen. And an example of that is the Worksite Wellness Program that the governor's created and Public Health has created. Only 10% of the government of Guam uses that. But I don't know if you guys knew that or not, but that is 3 hours a week that is created by Gov Guam for employees to use. That's paid. Only 10% of the employees use it. That's pathetic. So if we use that here, put all that money that's available, that's proposed into youth, whatever, into facilities and build it, recreate it, it's going to go to waste. So there's other ways to do things, other avenues to do things that are proven effective, that we can use public-private partnerships that have already been proven, that's already out there that we can work together with that allow that. And what I'm going to submit is actually the NCD Physical Activity Wellness Policy. I want to submit that to you guys. It's already proven. This is actually this is part of what Senator Rodriguez accepted an award for last weekend in the States. So I want to submit this, and if we can work together with this is really what's going to, kind of get things together. And part of what your stated goal is to help out with the youth and the physical activity, getting those things together. That's what really is the core problem. Not getting youth and not getting activities together. That's just for a certain population. They're already doing things. If you build it, they're not going to come. It's already there. The programs are already there. Even if you fix it, those guys are already there. If you throw $1 million in there, they're already there. In the States, in Europe, in Asia, those things are already there. It's not gonna. It doesn't matter how much money you put into it. The populations aren't there. They have Zumba classes at Micronesia Mall. There's not 1 million people there. Everybody in Guam isn't doing it. So it doesn't matter how much more money you put into these things, nobody, it's not going to increase it. There's one program here in Guam because it's the new kid on the block, and that's soccer. That's the only one here that did anything good, and that's because it's the new kid on the block. Other than that, nothing else. Other than that, allowing the federations to break down the other all the other programs. In a perfect society, getting rid of DPR is the best thing to do, honestly. I know that the previous administration tried to do that, but as far as recreation goes, they can have the parks and the facilities, but as far as the recreation goes, letting the federations take control of all of the sports activities, that would be the best thing to do. And allowing them to do what they do best. Basketball, football, soccer, baseball, allow those guys to handle the things because that's what they do best. And that's really all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Senator Morrison, any comments or questions?
Okay, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the Director, Blas, for providing testimony. And I want to thank you, Brad, for being here. I certainly agree with you. Things have evolved. And of course, we didn't pull this fund many years ago, or if eventually it went to some complete halt, it eventually did not embrace these it didn't constantly stay with the times and as far as the recreation program. Now, what's happening here is we are allowing DPR to embrace such programs as your programs you've created, the new types of fitness programs, health programs that are out there that are engaged for the youth especially, and we can encourage DPR to partner with these programs and again have better turnaround into the village communities. Right now, these are programs yes, they're there, but they're not truly accessible, and we have to use vehicles like the recreation program and use these types of mechanisms that were in place. I believe if this fund was established, I'm sure it will incentivize DPR to create more partnerships with federations, like you said, and partner with them. And again, a lot of these fees that are coming in are fees not from the fund is not coming from the general fund. It's coming from fees that are created by the recreation program, right? But again, we just can't foster more programs because they do not have that flexibility to turn around with federations. I know that for a fact because we've always tried to partner, but even with the basketball federation, the baseball federation, to get baseballs, it took us 6 months to procure baseballs. It took us 8 months to get basketballs. It took us almost a year to pay referees. So if you really want to harness the programs that are there and existent today, and using the vehicle through what is taken in and how we can foster back out and encourage more programs, this is the vehicle. It worked before, but it came to a halt and for some reason. And now you've seen it doing it from $1 million down to about $150,000 to $199,000. But that's because there's no incentive to encourage more partnerships with federations and organizations for such as yours. And I'm just hoping that this is where we start to work with DPR, allow DPR the flexibility now to partner with these organizations that exist today and encourage it not only in the Paseo Stadium or the sports complex or some areas, but at the village level where they were children in need of these programs.
Right, but if DPR had no control whatsoever, it wouldn't take 6 months to get baseballs through the procurement process because the federation would be in charge of it all.
No, that's what I'm saying, the partnership. It will allow and embrace organizations like the federations that come in so they don't have to seek their sponsorships and all that, and of course facility usage through planning out the leagues and everything. But DPR can also turn around more programs. You're talking about federations are running the Budweiser baseball. These are major sponsors. You're talking about major sponsorships that help embrace these kinds of big things. I've been there. I'm talking about at the village level where, the community centers, the village. You're seeing some of the basket courts being rehabilitated right now. Now we got to complement it with DPR support with these, with programs, not just kids playing, but with programs, because these facilities are getting repaired. So I'm just saying DPR did that before, but this was the vehicle, the funding source, and had better turnaround. Mr. Nanetti can explain that with better turnaround of these youth programs. But again, this is vetted from a very, very experienced director, Dennis Zermano, who brought this idea to me, and how he used the fund and how he was able to turn around more programs, incentivize with the youth leaders at that time, but they're not existent because that was the fund that also funded youth leaders out in the community. So again, I'm trying to bring back that vehicle to take these programs into the villages.
Thank you very much, Senator Morrison. Speaker Wong.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bloss, thank you for your testimony, and you're right, I had read on page 2 where parks was taken out and then of course replaced now with sports. Do you feel now in your request, of course, in the amendment to put it back in, so then you would be of course in charge with the maintenance, upgrade and upkeep of now all parks again. Now you're going to go in and facilitate, I guess, or manage even sports and recreational facilities. Do you see this then now with as an additional responsibility, and will you be able, your department be able to handle this additional responsibility at the current funding source, of course, that you have? I mean, unless you intend to only run it with solicitations and other funds that come into this specific fund.
Actually, Madam Speaker, on this section where it allows us to, that's why that I want parks in, because there are unforeseen emergencies that happen. Water leakage, somewhere we have to wait, for us to buy parts or anything, just like on recreation. The lights gets burned out, we have to wait and process POs and all those things, and there's leaks that goes on. All I can say is that, things are we are working on a lot of parks. As you see, the sports complex in Harmon is, the walking trail and, the baseball that is used over there by Kyle Ripken and Little League. Paseo, we have the Masters, BBL, and we're working on the Cabrera field. Some organization came in and is helping us out work on it. We were working on Teason Field, softball field. And with this thing that Senator Tommy Morrison gives us, that authorization will help me at least get things that are needed immediately. And also, like you said, we can work on the recreational side if we have leaks, because we are working on a lot of leaks for the kids. The middle school basketball they play at the sports complex. We need basketballs and those things. This will help us facilitate what we need, right there and then.
Can you tell me how much is in the fund right now?
Pardon?
Do you have any idea how much is in the fund? How much money is in the fund? Because you see, by law, there was at one time a parks fund, a parks and recreation revolving fund, and a recreation revolving fund, all now to be deleted and to close those accounts, and now they would go into an all-encompassing public recreation services fund. Do you know how much is in there?
I don't think we...
But I think your staff might have an... Thank you.
For the FY 2013, we are appropriated for $187,000. And then for next fiscal year, we're looking at $199,000.
199,000. So for 2013 is 487.
For fiscal year 2013, it was 159,000.
Oh, 159,000.
For this fiscal year, it's 187,000.
187. And the monies that you have in the account, what specifically were they used, and were you able then to deplete the entire amount that you have there based on your current, whatever your current activities are?
We used the Public Services Fund to supplement our operations.
So now then, Mr. Blas, so that if you are using this money to supplement, like you say, other operations, and you've indicated some of the emergencies that have occurred and the need to immediately respond to it, with the additional an add-on now that you're to use this monies to pay now for stipends. And I know you're asking that the authority be given to the director rather than the commission now. Then it will be at your discretion to determine, of course, how the monies should be used. And you've indicated, of course, some of them are emergencies. But at the same time, there's now the need to use the monies to pay for stipends. Will you be able now, with the 187,000 for 2014, be able to meet then this additional mandate that's going to be in this bill?
I think we can work with that 187,000.
Because now it's not just parks and recreational facilities. You're now going to do sports as well.
Yes, which we are working on that also. Like I told you, there were our sports complex is always, we always have clinics there for basketball and even volleyball, done by our own supervisor up there.
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't get the name of the other witness. I'm sorry. What's your?
Mr. Hewitt.
Mr. who?
Hewitt.
Hewitt. You said something, of course, that is interesting, and that is how federations have established themselves, of course, for certain sports, and I know soccer is really big. Are there other federations then that are here in Guam, of course, that could respond to the individual sport activities that currently maybe DPW is handling? I know soccer is real big, so there's a soccer federation.
You mean DPR?
You're right. So, and DPR handles that, like the baseball, right? You do that, and football. You
yes,
do
correct. Yeah.
Actually, we just signed with the Basketball Federation an MOU for the old Teason gym. They're going to we sign over that they're going to fix it with. I guess they're going to try to get some grants on one. The same as the Guam Football Association, we work with them. We just signed, and Senator Pangelinan was up there with me when we signed over for the sports complex in the southern sports complex.
Okay, so thank you. So, Mr. Hewitt, are there other federations then? I know there's a soccer federation.
Correct, and I'd actually like to expand on the basketball just a little bit. Sam Vincent, when he was here just a couple weeks ago, in March, he took a tour of the Tejan gym, and kind of was very disappointed. And when he's going to come back again, coming up very soon with a contingent. Also, he's with the NBA Players, Retired Players Association, and when he comes back again next time, he's going to bring some more NBA retired players with him next time. Also, grant money also has nothing to do with government of Guam. Grant money to help repair that gym. It's got nothing to do with government of Guam money, and some of that will come from the NCD program that I'm part of. And we will be bringing him out along with some other groups. The Major League Baseball Players Alumni Association also has grants available that are helping out with the fields Baseball Tomorrow Fund can help out with any kind of fields that are available here in Guam. But there's so much red tape we have to cross because of politics. There's besides the soccer, football federations that are available, any sport, any Olympic sport has a federation. That's their governing body. But here, because Guam is a little bit different because it's, any U.S. or any nation has their own governing body that falls underneath the Olympic Committee. But Guam is just a little bit different because they have their own governing body also. So when you start talking about federations, they are just a tad different. So when you talk about sports, then you get in, there's a little bit of gray area. But every sport has a governing body. You just have to find it. And whether they have an association or not, or whether they're organized or not, that's remains to be seen. But the major sports, they do have organizations.
And so in your testimony, of course, you were suggesting, and correct me if I'm wrong then, is that maybe the best individuals to do this would be and to allow like a public-private partnership to allow the federation to run this and their governing boards to run this.
100%.
And that DPW should instead
DPR.
DPR, I'm sorry. DPR should concentrate specifically maybe on parks.
Fields and facilities.
And then facilities, you're right, recreational, areas and facilities. Okay, Mr. Blas, do you have a comment to that at all?
Yeah, well, talking about federation, we have worked with federation on the basketball and teeth and gym. We have already signed over and, that they're going to be the one to handle it. I don't quite understand. We've worked with the Guam Soccer Association too, and then the tennis, association group too. We have already assigned them the land that by law was supposed to be given to them. We gave it to them. So I don't quite, baseball, we have it out there. So, we're trying to upkeep, and in fact, by 2015 budget, I'll be having money to repair and renovate the whole Paseo Stadium. Just work on the field and everything there. But other than that, I don't understand. We've been working with federation, basketball, soccer, tennis, so, that's all I'm going to comment.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Respicio and then Senator Morrison.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Currently, your ASO said, Director Blas, that you have $159,000 appropriated to your department for this purpose. Is there a reason are you not receiving that money, or has that money been released? Okay, and so what you've also testified is that there was going to be a $28,000 increase, so it'll be $187,000. Yeah. Okay. And then what is the projection for 2015? Because
for FY 2013, it was at 159,000, and
Correct.
this fiscal year it's 187,000.
Correct.
So our projection for next year is we're looking at 199,000.
And then does your budget for 199,000 take into account the addition of item 4? To pay for stipends for coaches. I just want to follow up on the speaker's questioning here.
Well, we haven't paid their coaches.
No, but for 2015, next fiscal year, because this bill would add an additional obligation.
Yes, we will.
have you did an outlay already on these 4 items? If 199,000 will cover these 4 items?
Yeah.
I think it will.
We can incorporate that into the funding.
Well, with all due respect to the co-sponsor of this bill, Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to understand what this bill would accomplish. It's the same funding stream, right? This 199,000 will come from department fees, fines, assessments. These same funding streams there's no problem with the department being released these funds. Whatever the projection is, the legislature appropriates and the governor releases those monies to your department. You don't have any problem with the release of any of these monies. Yeah, so the one thing I'm seeing that I'm concerned about beyond what Brad testified to is that there's a continuing appropriation provision, and also you want to change it from the commission's authority to just a director's authority. You know, and I just don't. I mean, if the money's being appropriated right now, who authorizes how this money is going to be spent? It's just pursuant to the appropriation, right?
Right.
You have this authority already. So when the bill was introduced, it's going to go from something that's already working to make it more bureaucratic and cumbersome by having a commission approve these expenditures when this approval is already vested in the department through the director, and it's still pursuant to the procurement law and things like that, because these are government funds, right?
Right, that's correct.
So what are we trying to do here with this bill?
I think center.
Yeah. Well, maybe that could be for a floor debate, but I just want to express my my reservations for this bill, particularly after taking out the words parks, and I thank the director for putting that in. You're basically, it's going to be status quo. I don't see any fundamental or any. I don't see anything different from what the status quo currently is. In fact, it might be. Only thing is, it just provides for a continuing appropriation, and and that's something that that I would be cautious about doing as well.
This funding source is a special fund that we get we appropriate every year. Actually, it's we're only allowed to. I mean, not allowed, but we've been using it for just contractual and supplies.
Yeah, but just for contractual and supplies, you're probably spending 100% of that funding that's appropriated, right? You never have a fund balance at the end of the year. You always, because the needs are greater than the resources.
Right.
So I imagine, I mean, if you still have balances in these accounts, and considering the conditions of our parks, I would then venture to ask, what are you not doing with this money? So I just don't need to see your financials, your projections. Just common sense tells me that you're getting the money that's appropriated, because we get all the projections and all the special funds, and this committee provides for those appropriations every year in the budget. You're obviously spending 100% of what's available because you can't keep up with the needs to maintain these parks, as director testified and as we're seeing. So I don't know. Even if it's not like the legislature does not appropriate exactly what you project to receive in the fund. It's not like there's some glaring problem that we're trying to solve in this bill, or some overriding concern that.
I'm Michael Core, I'm the Parks Administrator, but I can answer probably. I think the intent of this bill was to create back the parks. The recreation side of doing programs. Currently, right now, we can't do any of those programs because we can't pay coaches, we can't pay referees, we can't buy the equipment needed as it is now with going through the GSA process of the procurement versus being it as the intent of the revolving fund that allows the department to run these programs, and that can. We still got to go through the procurement process, the 3 quotes and everything, but at least it gives us the flexibility to pay these guys on time.
I know, but by deleting parks, it doesn't solve any problem, because you still have the mandates of maintaining the parks. Look at the Paseo Stadium and the condition it's in, and So we just can't just delete the word parks and beef up the recreational side, and then forget about the park side when there's also, as Brad testified to, that there's public-private partnerships that should be pursued, and you guys should just focus on providing these facilities. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just as a history too, Mike, wasn't the fact that the reason why there was this change was made in the past was that there were some problems in an OPA audit with regards to these funds?
Yes, this was all prior to us.
Yeah, right.
Yes, yes.
So, in other words, we had people embezzling money in the past on these funds, and that's why this was changed.
Yes.
So now we want to change it back, and I think if we're going to do it, then we better go and read that audit and see what they found out in terms of the lack of controls. And if we are going to make it and put it back, then we got to put those same controls back here. I mean, those recommended controls, because we stopped doing this because people were embezzling the money, and we don't want to put the same system back in place with no additional controls. And I understand that was before your time, so it's just history. Yeah, it's just history that I'm saying of why this stopped. And if we want to start it again, then we've got to change the system that's in place and put it in the statutes, I think, to protect the integrity of the fund and to ensure that it's able to function and be dispersed accordingly. Senator Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate my colleagues' input here. Again, the intent here is to take this fund and give it flexibility to create new programs. As a program starts up, it allows DPR to also look at the registrations, the type of revenue it's generation, and have a better turnaround to create more new programs, instead of waiting a whole year to facilitate a whole new program. Now, again, this is a design as it was in the past. Again, I'm not privy to the history too much of how the fund was stopped, but I thought that was more specific to the DPR Employees Association that was embezzling money in a sense through the association. And I think this issue was more of the administrations in the past tapping the recreation fund for other purposes other than the recreation program. So I think that's how the fund started to, or the opportunities for programs, they started to dwindle in the villages or throughout the villages. Now, our goal here is to foster public-private partnerships. As my colleague mentioned, with the stipend and coaches, instructors, these provisions are put in here because we know, as Mr. Hewitt mentioned, we have evolved to different types of activities that are out here that DPR can partner with and to help facilitate into the villages. That's the true intent of this. Is right now DPR does not have that flexibility to turn around for a Zumba instructor or a baseball coach or a softball coach. They can't turn around and ask this coach, can we partner you? Here's our agreement, here's our contract. I like the memorandum of agreement. And to put the controls in there so that we can get this into the village and partner with the mayors. Now, talking about the issues of federations again is this is where the memorandum of agreement, I agree with that, Mr. Blas, because that will allow to stipulate some controls in there, Mr. Chairman, because we have federations that are geared to specific advancements of sporting on their sport, and sometimes we don't have control. The government doesn't have control of these facilities, so we have to allow the government or the DPR, the vehicle, to ensure that we still control it, maintain it, so that it's not just specific for the federation, and they can stipulate that if other kids in the community or other adults in the community need to use it, DPR can still have control over that. So we don't want to have a full-out blown control by the federations. I agree with the memorandum through partnerships, and we can help facilitate that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We have one final individual that signed up to testify, Mr. Frank Cruz. Were you going to testify, sir? Oh, well, this is the public hearing on the bill. Well, why don't you come up? We'll allow you to make, 2 to 3 minute statements to bring it to and put it on the record. Oh, Mr. Blasco, would you just stay just for a minute while Mr. Cruz just mentions a couple of things? Just a couple minutes. Yes, we are. Mr. Blas, just accommodate us for just a couple minutes. And again, we're here for 290, but if you wanted to just make some general statement, we'll allow you to do so for the record. And then we can have some other hearing on that specific. Okay.
This is a reference to the Tigua Cemetery about trash being still there.
Mm-hmm.
And from 2010 to 2012, I have called DPR office for assistance for the cleanup, particularly behind my mother's graveside. And that hasn't been done. Each time I call, they say they'll come, and they don't show up. In 2012, I'm always there like one day prior to the All Souls Day Mass. And I called Mr. Kura, and he said he sent somebody up. And I waited. I even witnessed a hearse going in for burial. After that, I waited for a while. There was just no show. Now, I gave up from having to call them. That's why I went to your office and I asked for assistance. And first thing that I was asked to do was to email the pictures, take a picture and email them to your office, which I did just that.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
and we have been working with you on this, trying to help resolve the matter.
But when I left the message, 2 messages for both Kura and Blas, so I can have a meeting and try to solve things up in a well-mannered. But then the call came down from your office, Mr. Blas telling, I think it was Cod Pangelinan that received the call, that I have a problem. Now, what is the problem? I don't know. But I was fortunate enough to attend the February 14 meeting at DPR Commission. The commission was all surprised because your letter was never, he has not responded to your letter. And when I got the chance to speak, first thing I asked that I'm surprised you people did not table Tigua Cemetery. Then Miss, was it Evelyn Casil? I'm not sure of her first name.
Mm-hmm.
She reiterated and asked me what cemetery. And I said, Tigua Cemetery. Then I handed her your 2 letters, December and January. And my feeling with that was Mr. Blas, I don't think he has I don't think he plans to reply on that, because came February, I started to telling him, I started to mention that for the title that he holds, to tell me that I have a problem, I told him that he was very unprofessional and immature. So all I'm asking them was there is my mother's gravesite for 3 years. Before that, during October, Mr. Kura went up to the cemetery, and I trusted that he was going to do assessment and have it cleaned up. I've never met Kura, but I was at DPR office at the time. Then when he came in, he said he found the place. Then he told me, I asked him, did you get down? He said no, figuring, okay, what he saw. But before the mass, the only thing that was removed was the 2 large plastic bags. And Miss Senator Morrison, you were there at that meeting. We had that meeting up at the cemetery. I asked a direct question from Mr. Kura, your contractor that cuts the grass. After that cutting, do you come and inspect the place? He did not answer that directly. He went on and said, they don't pick this kind of trash here, which is under the tree. Then later on, without asking, he said, they pick up trash surrounding the gravesite. Then I say, then what the hell is this trash then? This is surrounding the gravesite. Of that February 14 meeting, Casil promised that the place will be cleaned up. That same week, Friday, I think it's February 21st or 23rd, I went up there, took some pictures. Mr. Scott and I have probably were in the same boat because he was there prior to me. So after taking the pictures, I went down to your office and I spoke to Scott and he said, where did you come from? I said, I just came from the cemetery. Oh, wow, I was just there. But obviously he cannot play the pictures off my camera and my cell phone because I didn't have the, I don't know, the USB line.
Okay.
So I took pictures of what he had taken. Those trash were still there. It may be removed some, but it's an half-ass job. I examined what else was there, and there was still trash. Then maybe a couple days, couple weeks later, I get into the city office. I came here to see Senator Munya Barnes. I met Clint Rigel outside, and I asked him, can you take my story? He said, what's your story regarding Tiguac Cemetery? And what about it? I said, because the director told me that I have a problem. What is your problem? I don't know. He went up there and took some pictures. It can be replayed if you want that to be replayed. It's trash. I mean, if they say they clean up their flower butts that are out, you know, those artificial flowers, there's wires of those flowers, they're all in the area. And it's all over.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cruz. As I mentioned, we have been working with you on this.
Yes.
We have been working with the director. The director has responded to a couple of letters that we sent to him. And we'll follow up and,
yes.
and make sure that...
Are they still here?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to ask them how many times do they cut the grass at the cemetery? If it's 2 times, then there's one due this month.
Okay.
If it's every 6 months. And I like that place to look clean.
We all do. We all do.
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing that gets me is that it was in the news. Him and the governor talking about adoption of a dog park in Terudu.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is dog park? How about Limtiaco Cemetery Park? And the other thing is, who's responsible of putting up or doing the mass at the cemetery? The funeral home is always doing it. Do they have a budget for that? Too much freebies already. And they're deserving people to be thanked a lot. But I think it's time that they do a budget. I like an altar there to be erected up, permanent structure.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you very
sir.
much, Mrs. Cruz. Mrs. Dismasi. There being no further comments or questions, we'll go ahead and adjourn this public hearing. Thank you, and Mrs. Dismasi, todos